There are so many video games. Some good, some bad, some mid, and some that just shouldn't exist. And some games that just never got the attention they deserved. Whether it be little to no marketing, low sales, being on a console with a low install base, getting pretty mid reviews from critics, or going to GameStop and looking at the cover art for 1 second and saying to yourself, yeah, that looks pretty cool and all, but I think I'm gonna go buy Smash Brothers now. Even one of these things can just make any game fly under the radar, no matter the quality of the game itself. Now what about a game that literally suffers from everything I just mentioned? Gotcha Force is an interesting game. Don't get me wrong, it's a really good game, but it's also kind of a bad game. It's incredibly unique, but also kind of generic. It has a lot of things going for it, but also nothing you haven't seen in any other games. It has really good music. No, wait, it just has really good music. Okay, if I'm gonna explain why I love this game and also hate it, we're gonna have to go back to the very beginning. E3 of 2003. A lot of great games were shown at this conference. You know, games like F-Zero GX, Half-Life 2, Halo 2, Tony Hawk's Underground, the fucking Nokia N-Gage. Wait a minute, is that Tommy Tallarico? Get out of my video. During the GameCube showcase at E3 that year, they showed off a lot of games that we consider classics now, like F-Zero GX and Pikmin 2. Yet for only 3 minutes we were able to see what Gotcha Force was, with the most uncomfortable looking man in existence trying to explain what it is.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about my game, Gotcha Force. Basically, Gotcha Force is a GameCube game that you can play multiplayer, just have a bunch of fun with. Unfortunately, I don't have any friends with me here today, so we're going to be playing one-player mode today. Right now, I'm using a character that's really weak, really small. However, she moves very quickly and very agile and nimble, so she's great at dodging. So that's one of the things that makes the game great, is that you're choosing the character that best fits your play style, whether it be up close and personal or long distance fighting, and you're having at it.
However, after that, nobody cared. All the media information I could find at the time was basically just, hey, this game exists, I guess. It showed up at E3 and the Tokyo Game Show in the same year, and then everybody just moved on with their life, which is really weird considering the fact that this game was made by Capcom. I mean, what other Capcom game was so important that...
Resident Evil 4.
Oh, okay, so Gotcha Force was basically overshadowed by everything else that was announced at the time, especially for the GameCube. People were too busy caring about F-Zero, Resident Evil 4, and Pikmin 2, and honestly, you can't blame them. I mean, if you saw each of these boxes on a shelf and you could only pick one, you're not choosing Gotcha Force, and the sales numbers back that up too, with reportedly less than 30,000 copies ever being sold. People just didn't care about this game at the time for whatever reason, especially critics who gave it an overwhelming in most departments. IGN gave it a 6.5 out of 10, saying, and I quote, "I found Gotcha Force to be pretty intriguing for the first 20 minutes I played it, but once you make sense of the madness on screen, it loses some of its bizarre charm." But that's just IGN's opinion, and let's be honest, nobody actually respects IGN. I mean, they give every game a 7 out of 10 anyways. So let's check out Electronic Gaming Monthly's review from their 174th issue. Gotcha Force is a queer little chestnut. Kevin, I don't think you can say that anymore. Okay, so game reviewers don't know what the hell they're talking about. And we're also quite homophobic, so let's take a different angle to this. Actually playing it for ourselves, and coming to our own conclusions. You'd be surprised how many people don't do that anymore. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what the hell this game is even about. Gotcha Force was released in 2003 in North America, exactly 12 days before I was even born. Developed by Capcom exclusively for the GameCube, Gotcha Force is an arena-like fighter where you collect these Gundam-like machines called Gotchabots and have them battle it out with other Gotchabots. Think of it as a mixture of the creature-collecting elements of Pokemon mixed with the battles that, say, Gundam would have. Already, that's a pretty unique mixture of game design elements. So what the hell happened? Why did this game sell less copies than the entire population of Wyoming? Well, let's first talk about the story. It's generic, but also kinda charming. A meteor crash lands in the mountains and our protagonist goes to check it out. He runs and skips rocks, and eventually finds this Gotchaborg named G-Red. Then these things start popping up everywhere. Some are ninjas, some have guns, and some look like Hasbro's about to send a cease and desist. But then, an evil organization known as the Death Force, yes, that's their actual name, stick with me for a second, wants to destroy Earth for whatever reason. So instead of calling up NATO or the UN, we, a 9-year-old, team up with our other 9-year-old friends to take down the evil Death Force. And yeah, that's basically the story. Very generic, but hey, at least it sets up the plot so you can compete in robot battles with your friends. Now about those robot battles, the gameplay if you will. It's really good, but it's also like really bad at sometimes. Let me explain. Okay, so gameplay consists of these 4 main elements. Number 1, long-range combat. This is the best form of combat in the game, and the one you'll want to use the most. Most bullets in this game do a pretty decent job of locking onto the target and do quite a bit of damage depending on the Borg you use. Especially my homie Gatling Gunner, who can be an absolute DPS machine. So yeah, definitely use long range when available, especially if the enemy is using our next type of gameplay. Number 2, short-range combat. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, melee combat in this game is a complete joke. Melee in this game consists of pressing the B or X button like an absolute madman trying to land a hit on the enemy, but 9 out of 10 times one of these things will happen. You'll either A, completely miss your opponent because the AI in this game turns into baby geniuses and will instantly dodge your attack and attack you back no matter what. Or B, you can't hit them because they're in their invincibility frames and you can't attack them no matter how hard you try. Or fuck it, C, all of the above. Number 3, tanks. Literally. In this game, some of the Borgs are tanks. They move slowly with the trade-off of high health and high damage, probably the second best type of unit in the game, mainly because they use long range, although they still take hits and even more so seeing how slow they move. Remember how I said the melee combat in this game was a joke like 10 seconds ago? Well, the AI doesn't fall under that umbrella. If they use melee, they will absolutely destroy you due to how the combat works. Too many hits and you'll go flying across the map. They probably did this so you won't get stun locked, but it's still annoying from time to time, so when you're using a tank, watch out for those. But if you are taking hits, there's always number 4, support. Now if I'm being honest, support is really only good if your ally has them in their party. Support's main role is to, well, support. They can heal you, which is really useful in this game, and set up traps for the enemy to get stuck in. If you're struggling with this game, which you will despite what some reviewers will tell you, then choosing the character Mana will help you out a lot. Also, you see that gear icon in the top right? If you press the Y button when it's full, then everything about your character gets doubled. Speed, damage, and ammo recharge rate. It's essential to beat this game, so keep that in mind and use it at the best moment. Now that's the 4 main types of Borgs in this game. There are others that are mixes of the main 4, like dragons, which are basically sky tanks, gunmen, which are a mix of close and long range, and then there's aircrafts that fly, and they just suck. Now you may be thinking to yourself now, wow, this game looks awesome, I can't believe I haven't played it yet, I'm gonna go pay the price of a very used car for one. I appreciate your enthusiasm, I really do. But I still haven't told you the biggest flaw of this game yet. A flaw so glaring, I'm surprised they never fixed it during development. The camera. Now to give the devs some slack, this was 2003, so maybe this was the best they could do. But come on, man. The camera in this game is what genuinely turns this game off for me and a lot of other people. It's something that's so glaring in how bad it is, yet it was never made slightly better in development. Put it short, the camera automatically locks onto whatever enemy you choose. Sounds good on paper, right? You are right, but this isn't paper, this is a video game. In execution, they did a terrible job. Now to be as fair as I can, there are some points in this game where the camera works fine, hell even in your favor in very specific situations. But 99% of the time it's just a clusterfuck of claustrophobia and a slight headache. If the enemy is above you, which they will be later in the game, then the camera will jolt up and you won't be able to see the ground, which means you won't be able to see where you're going, which means you won't be able to dodge properly, which means you'll die, which means you'll throw your controller, which means you'll have to go to therapy for anger management. Basically, the camera is your biggest enemy in this game. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. I get why there's a lock-on mechanic that's so brutal, because if there wasn't any lock-on at all, the game would be literally unplayable. So in that aspect, I can respect the devs for the design choice they made. But even with a camera that's been hitting Dad's alcohol cabinet a little too much, I still can't stop playing this game. The awkward camera is something that you can get used to after a while and enjoy the base gameplay, which is still fun even after all the bitching I've been doing. Now let me go deeper into the gameplay. Now I've already explained each type of Borg in the game, but how you get them is also pretty intriguing. Now you start out with G-Red. He's the equivalent to your starter Pokemon. He's probably one of the best bots in the game, especially when it gets upgraded halfway through the main story. You also get other bots throughout the game by completing missions and getting them by random. You also can get these data crystals for more powerful bots that you'll need to combine multiples of to get that certain bot in the crystal. Since this is all done by RNG, no two playthroughs will be the same, and that's what I love most about it. The game pushes and promotes experimentation with different bots to see what you like. Obviously some are better than others, but as I've said before on this channel, player choice and freedom is what I love most about games, and Gacha Force scratches that certain itch for me. How you assemble your team is really clever too. Each bot has a specified amount of GF energy that they'll use for the party, and you're only given a certain amount of GF energy throughout the game. However, as you get more familiar with the game and get better at it, the game accordingly gives you more GF energy after each battle, so you can afford more and better bots to be on your team. You can have up to 30 bots in your team at once, so you could definitely create a huge team of low-tier bots or a small team consisting of great bots, and that's what makes this game amazing. The amount of player choice and freedom in this game actually blew me away for a quote-unquote kids game, as critics kept saying, or queer little chestnut. I still don't know what he means by that. There is also another thing I want to mention, the voice acting. It's really bad. Now again, it was 2003, but I've already used that excuse once for this game.
The day after a meteorite fell towards Safari Town, a boy went in search of it, hoping to find an adventure. They are the Death Force. They are an evil gotcha-born corpse that fight only to conquer and destroy.
Oh, hi, Mark.
It has that Tommy Wiseau levels of awful, you know, the kind of bad where it's actually really funny, so honestly it just kind of adds to the charm if anything. Now this game has a lot of content, over 155 missions to be exact. Most missions are the exact same with a few mix-ups in between. Some missions you'll be fighting the Death Force, and others you'll be fighting your friends, and in some missions the game will completely fuck you. To all the game reviewers out there that said this was an easy game meant for shit-eating toddlers is very mistaken. This game will fuck you up at some points. There's this one mission where you have to take out these Death Force units with giant missiles. The missiles they carry will one-shot you, and they must have the equivalent of the Danger Close perk from Modern Warfare 2, because the blast radius is huge and will one-shot you even if you're in a millimeter within them. Also mixed with the melee combat fuckery in this game, it can lead to a very painful time, and don't even get me started on the final boss. This guy took me almost an hour to beat. Now I want you to imagine all the bad parts of this game all at once, and throw it into a boss fight. Because that's basically what this is. Shitty camera? Check. Terrible melee combat? Check. An unfair freezing mechanic that I didn't talk about till now because I wanted to suppress it from my brain because of how bullshit it is? Check. TLDR, I hate this boss. But I did it anyways, I'm a gamer, what can I say? So that's Gotcha Force, everyone. We beat the evil Galactic Emperor and the day is saved. Hooray! No NATO needed. All joking aside, despite some of this game being downright broken, unfair, and just plain annoying, I still love this game. It's a one-of-a-kind game that'll never be made again. The team over at Capcom set out to make a game they wanted to. They weren't looking to make the next big Mega Man or Resident Evil franchise, they just wanted to make a game people would enjoy, and for that, I respect them immensely for it. The dev team clearly had a lot of fun making it, and it shows in the game itself. A lot of the bots have this little Capcom Made in Japan text etched into them. That's cute. The main menu also screams style, like look at this, it's awesome. Better than any modern game menus, I can tell you that much. I even found this old website for the game where they showed off concept art for a lot of characters. I love stuff like this. They even showed off some neat little anniversary fan art that people made, as well as this little comic about G-Red going to Capcom Studios to defend them from the Death Force. It's really neat. Gotcha Force is an amazing game. Even with all its flaws, I still consider it one of the best games on the GameCube, and one of the best games you've never played. Sure, it may just be a stupid kids game, or that one thing Kevin said, but to quote the producer of the game in an IGN interview, originally, we wanted to create a game for kids. We realized that there weren't many games available for kids in the current market, both in Japan and the US. Even though there's a kids corner at the Tokyo Game Show, I feel it's too small. Companies just aren't supporting kids titles. A lot of the staff working on this project also worked on Gundam, which focuses more on a teenage audience, so they wanted to make a similar game for kids. And for that, Hitomi Nishimoto, I thank and respect you for taking a risk to make this game. My name's Burbus, and thank you for watching.
$50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
If there's one video game franchise that's more cursed than the Bermuda Triangle, it's Star Wars Battlefront. This one game franchise has been cursed ever since 2005 when Battlefront 2 came out. Since then, we had Pandemic shut down, EA making a watered-down reboot, EA making a sequel to their watered-down reboot with microtransactions. But I'm sure you already know the story on that one. The original Battlefront 1 and 2 are some of the best games ever made that need no introduction. These two games are ingrained into everyone's heads for a reason and are nostalgic. But let's quickly put ourselves into the mind of a corporate suit at a video game company. You don't actually care about making video games, but you absolutely love money. You also love making money with as little effort as possible. So then, you have a Jimmy Neutron brain blast. Instead of making a new game with all those pesky new ideas, passion, and effort into making something good, instead you decide to re-release an already loved video game. You take that video game and its source code, hire like 10 people to port it to all the latest consoles, add 1 or 2 new features and call it a day. Which brings us to the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. Released the day before Crab's Fries in 2024, the Battlefront Classic Collection is a classic, pun intended, way of baiting people's nostalgia to buy a product. What was marketed as the definitive way to play these two classic games turned out to be bordering on the line of a scam meant to dupe players, myself included. Yeah, I was basically scammed by this game, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Let's first talk about that trailer. It has that, yeah, we know what game we are, and you're gonna buy it vibe to it. That's perfect for nostalgia baiting. And then the price, $35.01. What kind of pricing is this? Do these guys not know basic marketing? The reason why products are priced with 99 cents at the end is because it triggers something in our godless little monkey brains that thinks we're getting a good deal, when in reality we're basically paying the same price as if it was an even number. It also goes without saying, but $35 for two 20-year-old games is ridiculous. You can go on Steam right now and buy the original Battlefront 1 and 2 for the pretty reasonable price of $10 per game. So we can confirm that Aspyr knows absolutely nothing about marketing. But whatever, these games are still good. Maybe they added tons of exciting new features that make the game better and justify the price. So let's jump into this game and see what we can find in this madness. I'm mainly going to talk about Battlefront 2 in this video, but I'll also mention some faults in the first Battlefront game too. Without further ado, let's do this. Yeah. Let's start with my very few positives. The main menu is like the PS2 version and I like it, especially compared to whatever the fuck the PC main menu was. The ability to play Hero Assault on all maps is also a welcome addition, as well as including the old Xbox exclusive DLC in this game was pretty cool as well. Editing burp here, I cannot say two words with X's at the end. Xbox exclusive. Xbox exclusive. That is all my positives. Now let's step back into reality. This game requires 30 gigabytes for two 20-year-old games. The original Battlefront is 3 gigabytes and Battlefront 2 is roughly 10 gigabytes. I have no idea why this game is as big as it is, and to make matters even worse, when the game first launched, it was actually 70 gigabytes. That's right, 70 fucking gigabytes. If this game isn't a perfect example of how terribly optimized games are nowadays, then I don't know what is. But whatever, we all have 16 terabyte hard drives apparently, according to Aspyr. But I can at least play online with my friends on launch day, right? Well, you should be able to, except you can't, because the servers don't work. Like, really don't work. Here's some gameplay footage I took on launch day. Wow, so exciting. I can finally feel like a stroke victim. The hit detection was also amazing of how bad it was. You would shoot someone at point blank range, but it wouldn't actually register at all, so you two would just be sitting there firing at each other, just hoping that the Aspyr servers would register your shots from their 1999 dial-up connection. But it would never happen, and you'd just end up getting killed by a sniper anyways. Whenever you would try and join a server, it would ask for a password even though you selected quick play, and you obviously don't know the password because why would you? So you're just sitting there hoping the game fixes itself, which it never will. Those servers were also nice and packed too. On launch day, there were only 3 servers. That's right, 3 fucking servers that could hold a max of 64 players each, which means that only 192 people can try to enjoy this game online at once. Ah yes, 3 64-player servers, perfect for up to 10,000 people. The online experience was completely fucked, and Aspyr did the bare minimum to make it playable. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they just reused code from the original game, and when pairing that game code with modern servers, it fucks something up. Not to mention, no crossplay whatsoever. Today the online is completely dead and still broken. Look at me launching into the server with one other guy, the game ends before I can do anything, and then my game crashes. Incredible. Now to all the people out there saying something on the lines of, well, the online was bad because they put all their resources into the single player. Did they now? Let's entertain that idea for a while. Let's see all that innovation and passion that Aspyr put into this game. The sound design got much worse. Everybody remembers the sound design from the original. It's iconic for a reason. You have all this gunfire going off, people yelling stuff. It feels like an actual battlefield. Not to mention that sweet Star Wars music playing in the background. Yet in the classic collection, it sounds terrible. You'll hear all this gunfire from one direction when nobody is there, as well as your guns are insanely quiet compared to the gun that's shooting 40 feet away from you that'll blow your eardrums out. Sometimes the main menu music will just stop for no reason, leaving you in complete silence. They also changed some of the sound effects for no reason. You remember that iconic jingle that would play after completing an objective in the original game? Well, they changed it and it sounds way worse. They also changed the loading sound effect from the first game, and tell me, would you feel hyped loading into a game with these shitty monotone sound effects? Thankfully they changed it in an update, but why even change the sound effects in the first place? You really didn't need to. Thanks, Aspire. Yet none of this really matters, because in the latest patch of the game, which was released almost a year ago by the way, the new sound effects will still play sometimes and flip-flop between the old and new ones because the people who made this game are really good programmers. Speaking of terrible programming, the aim assist makes me want to vomit. The aim assist is so strong that it's genuinely disorienting. It's like the lock-on mechanic in Gotcha Force, but at least in that game it was consistently awful. In this game it chooses when it wants to be. Like, look at this, it's so strong I can barely move my character. Do yourself a favor and turn aim assist off. One thing you can't turn off though is these 144p cutscenes, my god. These cutscenes are incredible like they've always been, but Aspire in their infinite wisdom decided to not upscale them at all, which is really funny because they did upscale the movie cutscenes. So you're watching this crisp 4K movie scene one second and then the next second you're going, huh? What? What's going on? I can't see it. What the fuck? All these game design choices just turned this game into a nightmare. And that's what it was. A nightmare. It was a nightmare for the fans, it was a nightmare for gamers, and it was a nightmare for Aspire. Less than a day after the game launched, they issued a statement trying to quell the outrage on their website. It did not work. People hated this game, and rightfully so, myself included. This game had the potential to be the definitive edition of these classic games. All they had to do was fix some issues, add some new features, and have the online work, but they couldn't even do that. They could smell money from a mile away and took that opportunity to release two already finished games from 20 years ago, broken and neutered. For the rest of 2024, Aspire would release updates for this game, but at this point, nobody cared. If you can't release a finished game on launch, nobody will ever play it again, even if you promise more updates are coming in the future, and it shows in the current player count. Reading the patch notes for this game is like reading a Twitter or Discord argument, completely embarrassing and something that didn't even need to happen in the first place. Now, to be fair, the full games are still here, and this game can be fun like it always had been back in the day, but it's just a fat fucking waste of potential on top of being objectively inferior to the original games that came out almost 20 years ago. The originals weren't perfect. Hell, they were actually kind of held together by duct tape and Elmer's glue at some points, but that's what made them fun. It was the presentation and flair that made the game so special and wanted you to keep coming back. We all have the words "just like the simulation" implanted into our brains because it was memorable. The game had passion and people who genuinely cared about what they were making working on the game. Aspire took the hard work of these passionate devs and fucking annihilated it beyond recognition. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering why I spent the last however many minutes venting about a Star Wars game. Well, to that I say, I don't know, this is my YouTube channel, sue me, I make my own goddamn rule. Overall, the message I'm trying to get across is, stop pre-ordering games, stop pre-ordering consoles, just don't do it. Wait for a game to come out to see if it's actually good no matter what it is. Don't let companies take advantage of you and always vote with your wallet. Games like this one are perfect examples of how far game companies can go to make a quick buck, and we the consumer are still part of the problem. This game was a wake-up call for me to stop buying everything that I think looks good and wait for games to actually come out before I buy them, because now I have this hemorrhoid in my Steam library. Also, keep in mind that you're allowed to enjoy this game. Hell, it may even be more convenient to play this on something like a PS5 or a Switch, but don't defend this. You deserve better. As I've said, the full games are still here, so they can still be fun, but if you have the ability to play the originals, whether it be the original Steam release, the original PS2 version, or even emulation, just do that. My name is Verbus, and thank you for watching. F-Zero GX is one of my favorite games that I recently discovered. I started playing it last year, and ever since then, I've been hooked. It's fast racing mixed with responsive controls, great map design, a killer soundtrack, and a wide variety of characters to choose from. No wonder people consider it one of the best racing games of all time. So why hasn't Nintendo made one in the last 20 years? Aero GPX is an incredible game that you should all be playing right now. It's a game that takes everything that made F-Zero so special and adds to it in an exceptional way. While I don't think it's better than F-Zero GX, it sure is damn close. First, let's start with the two coolest new mechanics added to this game, flying and the drill dive. A lot of maps have this sick new flying mechanic that lets you glide in the sky. It feels so smooth to fly around, and it adds to the gameplay formula immensely, especially with the other new mechanic, drill diving, which lets you spin in the air to get a massive speed boost when you hit the ground. On some maps, this can completely change the flow of how they're normally supposed to be played, and I mean that in the best way possible. It allows you to do crazy shit like this.
Final lap!
There's also another mechanic, burn damage. On some maps you have these firebolts coming out of the tracks and they burn you. It causes you to slowly lose health, however at the cost of getting slightly increased stats. When you fully burnt out your health bar, you enter Final Burn. It'll greatly increase your stats, yet at the trade-off of, killing you faster. I honestly never used this feature that much. It just kind of felt unnecessary to have because I could just race normally and just use my boost sparingly. Although I do appreciate that it's here, and I can feel as if it could be very useful on the hardest difficulty. The physics are also incredible. They feel one-to-one with F-Zero GX's gameplay. Whether you're drifting on a tight turn, racing on a cylinder, or boosting like your life depends on it, you'll truly feel like Captain Falcon. I genuinely don't know how the dev did it, but he sure as hell knocked it out of the park. On another note, in F-Zero GX and all the F-Zero games, your health and boost power are all in one bar, but in Aero GPX, it's two separate bars. This is a wonderful change to the gameplay flow, and it forces you to make split-second decisions, like, oh, do I want to get more health but sacrifice my boost capabilities, or do I want to get more boost but sacrifice my health and potentially go fast and kill myself? It's such a simple yet wonderful change that makes each race more unique, especially since the track design allows for tons of experimentation with how you race on them. Now, who you race with on those tracks is also a great part of this game. Aero GPX as of writing this video has 15 playable characters, as well as 15 playable tracks. They're all very uniquely designed, just like F-Zero, they all have their own unique stats that make them feel different one way or another. I never raced with any characters that felt like they were the best or worst. They all have their pros and cons, yet each racer feels viable even if some of their stats are awful compared to others. Shout out to my homies Jet Jackson, Andrea Thane, and Jazz Big Boy. I love these names so much. Oh yeah, and before you say in the comments, yes, you can KO people, and oh my, is it very fun. You still have the ram and spin mechanics to get KOs, so get ready to cause some absolute mayhem when you're on the track. And of course, while you're racing, you'll be hearing some of the most hype tunes to ever grace your Steam library. The music in this game makes me want to bang my head and commit insurance fraud. Aaron, if you're watching this video, please release physical copies of the soundtrack. I'd buy every copy. Also, this game is basically bug-free. I never experienced a single bug in all my 5 hours of playtime, which is very, very rare for early access titles nowadays. There were a couple of times where the announcer would just stop counting down before the race started, as well as in the single-player menu, which shows the same 2 videos for each of the 4 video previews, but that's very minor stuff compared to the actual gameplay and presentation itself. Also, I realized as I was editing this video, ghost data doesn't work at all. If you do a time trial, it just doesn't work. Also, in the top left, you can see time trial dash track text here. So, you might want to get on that one. Currently, the game is in early access, as I stated before, and the dev has plans to add 15 more characters, local multiplayer, and an unlocks menu. I can't wait to see what this game has next in store for me. So overall, Aero GPX is 100% a worthy spiritual successor to F-Zero GX. It has great map design, responsive controls, a great cast of characters, a killer soundtrack, fun new game mechanics, and is absolutely worth your time. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to commit insurance fraud. I feel like I say this in every video, but video games are my favorite type of media. I mean, while yeah, I could go watch something like Breaking Bad or Transformers 1 for the 100th time and experience that in the linear way that the showrunners intended, or I could go play a video game where I make my own rules and put myself into a world that not even the best show or movie could do. Of course, TV shows and movies are drastically different experiences compared to video games, and that's obviously not a bad thing at all. But it's still something to mention, especially for what I'm about to say. Growing up, I tended to use video games as a form of escapism when I was younger, like many others do. But when you're young and full of those feelings that will definitely go away with due time, but of course you don't know that, so you just gotta deal with it. And how I dealt with it was by playing Fallout 3. Fallout 3, while objectively not being the best Fallout game, that's title still obviously goes to New Vegas, it's still an incredible game and is definitely worth all the praise it gets, and even its criticisms. I wouldn't say Fallout 3 is my favorite game of all time, but it definitely is the most important game in my life. The year is 2015. Fallout 4 was just released, and I saw all these videos about it on YouTube. I saw Let's Plays of it non-stop and really wanted to play it. Unfortunately, I didn't have a next-gen console or a PC powerful enough to play the game. But I did have a PS3, and I had a big brain moment and thought to myself, well, if Fallout 4 is just the 4th game in the franchise, then surely the 3rd would be on PS3, right? Well, I was right. I remember going to GameStop to get the game that day, and then the guy working there asked to see my mom because it was M-rated and I wasn't allowed to play those games. But my mom, being the wonderful soul she is, got me the game anyways, and I was ready to set off on my adventure in the Capital Wasteland. As soon as I popped that disc into my PS3, I was greeted by this. It sets the tone immediately, especially with the title theme done by Einon Zur. Every time I hear that theme, I get teleported back to my bedroom almost 10 years ago. It never fails to put shivers down my spine, and I mean that in the best way possible. I can honestly sit at this main menu for hours. It's just that good. The title theme gives me feelings of nostalgia, regret, depression, you know, sad boy stuff. I played this game when I was 13, and around that age is when I started to become depressed and needed a form of escapism. Fallout 3 filled that role in my life. The gameplay was fun and addicting, VATS was refreshing, especially after all the FPS games I was playing at the time, and of course, the world and atmosphere. Fallout 3 nails that shit 100,000%. While Fallout New Vegas also has an incredibly engaging world, I think that Bethesda's Fallout 3 has more of a wide and explorable world, where anywhere you look there's something to see and go to. I love how as soon as you escape the vault, the game puts you in the middle of the world, and you look out over the scenic overlook and see a wide open world ready to explore. I love exploring the wastes next to Tenpenny Tower, the outside area of Paradise Falls, and especially the downtown DC area. There's something so special about exploring this wasteland because it always feels like there's something around every corner, and I especially love exploring with my trusty Chinese assault rifle. Or my untrusty Chinese pistol. Fallout 3 also has some incredibly memorable locations. Of course you have Rivet City, Megaton, and Oasis, some wonderful locations of course, but you also have these other locations that not a lot of people talk about. One of my favorites is Andale. As soon as you get there and start talking to the people, they seem uncomfortably friendly.
Hello there, stranger. Good to meet you. Name's Jack Smith. I hear you've already met my wife. Sweet lady, isn't she? But anyway, welcome to Andale, the best little town in Virginia.
You start to think to yourself, well, they're probably just really good people who want to help out some wastelanders. They mean no harm. But then you start to look around for a bit and see that there's a shed and a basement that require a very hard lockpicking skill. Also, there's this old guy that lives there and just says this as soon as you start talking to him.
What? How? How did you get in here? What are you doing in this town? Get out! Get out while you can!
Now, I'm no detective, but something is definitely going on here. Eventually, if you do enough snooping around, you can find the key to the basement and... so yeah, about that basement. Then if you head outside after doing this, the entire community comes out to confront you, and it leads to one of my favorite dialogue exchanges in the entire game.
Hey there, stranger. I've got something that I want to talk to you about. I couldn't help but notice that you're poking around in my basement. So, be honest now, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? And did you see anything unexpected there? And do you have any thoughts on that? I'm afraid that it just doesn't work that way. I guess we know where the next meal is coming from.
I also love the fact that they're listening to the Enclave radio too. Such a great little detail they added. Speaking of the radio, I love hearing Three Dog on it as he narrates events that you partook in or just gives general advice about the wasteland.
News time, children. Not too long ago, I reported that a cat recently left Vault 101. His name is James. Good guy. Turns out it gets better. I got a new report here that says someone else has just climbed out of that hole. What the hell is going on down there? Revolution? Vacation? Somebody fart?
I love when games take notice of things that you've done during gameplay or even things going on in the world. It makes the story and world come even closer together. Oh yeah, the story. It's fine. It's really nothing special in my opinion. Even when I was younger, I never really was that invested into it, and that also goes for a lot of other people. Basically, your dad, aka Liam Neeson, leaves the vault. Everything goes wrong. Shoot the overseer in the face. And leave the safety of the vault and search for Liam Neeson. I mean, your dad. Pretty cliche, but acceptable for a story. But as someone who's never really motivated by story and instead gameplay, the gameplay of Fallout 3 is perfect for me. Shoot guys to level up so you can get stronger so you can explode more people. Of course, this game isn't for everyone, and definitely is not perfect, might I add. The dialogue system leaves a lot to be desired, most of the perks are just stat increases, the game has a lot of jank, you're either comically evil or comically good with the karma system, it's not really that hard of a game, and the game ran like ass on PS3, and I would know because I exclusively played this game on PS3 for years. But overall, I love Fallout 3. It helped me through the hardest time of my childhood life, and as I'm writing this video, I'm going through some more hard times, and reflecting on and playing Fallout 3 has helped me out a bit in that department. This video hasn't been the same quality as my others because it's a bit more of a personal project of mine that I've been working on, but I hope you still enjoyed, and more normal content is coming soon. Thank you. March 6, 2012, Tony Hawk releases a video on the Ride channel to announce the release of his new game with Chris Cole. In this video, Tony and Chris both do some skate tricks, and whoa, it transitions to the new Tony Hawk game. Then, at 55 seconds, Tony says this.
When people see it, they're going to be really blown away by the graphics, but all of a sudden they're going to feel comfortable with the layout. They're going to know it instinctively. They're going to know the controls, where the challenges are, but at the same time, the visuals and the gameplay are so much better that you're going to get even deeper into the game and immersed in it.
This is the day where I learned what trust issues were. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD was released on July 18, 2012 for the Xbox 360. Then a month later it came out on PS3. Then a month after that it released on Steam. We're already off to a great start with this terrible, shitty release schedule. Developed by Robomoto, a company's that work consists of Tony Hawk Ride and Shred, two games that are very awful, as well as In Time the Game, a movie tie-in mobile game that reviewed very poorly. Then their next game, Big League Sports, a shitty Wii Sports ripoff for the Kinect that reviewed even worse. A perfect developer to tackle a remake of the most critically acclaimed video games of all time. It'd be like if Game Mill made a remake of Black Ops 1 and 2. Now before this review even starts, I'd just like to say that it's impossible to buy this game on Steam now, as it was delisted back in 2017. But being the good, law-abiding, not dangerous or harmful person according to YouTube, I decided to find a way to legally buy it. Luckily enough, I found out that for some reason, Activision is still selling keys for this game on Amazon for $10, so if you want to buy this game and be a good law-abiding citizen, then go ahead and do that. But if the keys run out, I guess you're fucked then, Lamout, XD. Another thing I need to mention is that I've played every single Tony Hawk game, so I know exactly how these games are supposed to work and play. This game mainly tries to emulate Tony Hawk 1 and 2, so that's what I'm going to be comparing it in this video. But I'm also going to compare it to every other game in this series because, I don't know, sue me. But enough exposition, let's get into the actual game itself. When we first launched the game, we just get these static logos that are very boring and you'll want to skip them. Remember in the older games, you get these really cool logo splash screens of the Activision and Neversoft logos? In Tony Hawk 2, you had the Neversoft eyeball trying to dodge the Neversoft letters. In American Wasteland, you had that intro with the cool concept art set to Dead Kennedys, but my favorite has to be Tony Hawk 3's. It's an animation of a Neversoft eyeball doing some tricks, bailing, and then doing the classic eyeball puncture. Yes, these intros are completely unnecessary, but it just shows how impassionate the devs were for what they were making. Oh yeah, you also don't get any cool skate videos at the beginning either, it just bumps you straight to the main menu. Couldn't they just reuse the old ones? Whatever, maybe cool things are outdated for good graphics. Speaking of graphics, they're admittedly pretty decent for 2012. A lot of the levels look much more colorful than the originals, which I'm a big fan of. The warehouse has a lot of rust and looks more gritty, which is pretty cool, but I personally could care less about graphics. I care much more about gameplay and depth. So how does it hold up on that department? Tony did say,
but at the same time, the visuals and the gameplay are so much better that you're going to get even deeper into the game.
So is he telling the truth? Tony, I think you're fucking with me. Tony Hawk HD has some of the worst gameplay I've ever experienced. Now, the actual gameplay formula itself is fine. Collect things, do certain tricks, and get high scores. The usual Tony Hawk stuff, which is fine and fun. But Professor Robomoto accidentally added a can of terrible Unreal Engine 3 physics to the concoction to create an awful experience. The physics are all types of wrong in this game. In the older games, everything was built around the physics. All collectibles were put in their respective locations very carefully to ensure that the player could actually collect them, while at the same time clearing any gap they needed to. And if the player couldn't, they could easily upgrade their stats in order to. But in Tony Hawk HD, all that is thrown out the window. It doesn't matter what stats you have, because you'll always either undershoot or overshoot whatever you're trying to get. Having max stats in this game is genuinely a hindrance, because having max air and hang time will make you go fucking flying. And that's not a good thing when you're trying to collect something or clear a gap. Yet while having low stats, you still go flying. So it's like it doesn't even change anything at all. If they really wanted to have these shitty physics, they could at least change the height or distance or something, man. But they just didn't, and I think I know why. So according to this old snapshot of a Steam page, the game for some reason brags that they use the quote-unquote original Neversoft level models, as well as they say the levels are exactly the same specs as the originals. Every gap, skate letter, etc. is exactly where you remember it, but it looks a hell of a lot better. Oh, Robomoto, you lazy fucking bastards. What this says to me is that Robomoto just took the original level files and added new textures to everything. Robomoto didn't even remake the levels themselves. They just stole Neversoft's homework and did the bare minimum to make it feel HD. Another thing wrong with the physics is the grinding. In the older games, grinding was a way to speed yourself up, but in this game, it just kinda does whatever it feels like. Most of the time it seems like you just go slower when you grind, but other times the game just speeds you up. Also, not to mention when you grind it shows an effect of wood or sparks behind your board. This is normal, it's been in every Tony Hawk game, but in this game it plays the effect on your board, and if you flip trick out, the effect will still be playing on your board, and it looks fucking awful. This isn't a rare glitch either, this happens every goddamn time. So overall it just makes the game feel very unpolished and cheap, which it is. Yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room. This game is very buggy and broken. Sometimes you'll spawn in very bad locations because the devs wanted to be quirky and add ragdoll physics instead of actual bail animations. Sometimes you manual without actually inputting it. There's no gap sound effect. Wall rides are busted, reverts don't slow you down, as well as they just reuse the pivot animation. Grinding and manualing have zero weight to the balance meter, making it incredibly hard to control. Downhill jam is a shit show, as always, and sometimes you'll just fall through the world. Or go flying in ragdoll mode for no reason. Are you sure this game is better, Tony?
So much better that you're gonna get.
Another thing I loved about the older Tony Hawk games is just the amount of unlockables you get. Completing the game with each character would unlock a new character like Darth Maul, Spider-Man, Billy Joe, that's Sexy Demon Lady. In Tony Hawk HD, you do get some secret skaters, like Classic Tony Hawk and Officer Dick, which is cool, I guess, but there's no licensed characters, and if you complete the career mode with the skater, you don't even get an unlockable video at the end. It's not like any of these guys didn't have any footage anymore either. They all did. It's just pure laziness. What's the point of even completing the game if you don't get anything satisfying at the end? Oh, what? I get the most basic cheats in the world when I beat the game once? Lame. Rodney Mullen's video at the end of Pro Skater 3 is one of my favorite videos of all time. Period. It shows the insane things possible you can do with the skateboard, breaking the limits of what was thought possible. It shows his unique style and what was exclusive to him. Sure, anybody can do a Casper with enough practice, but nobody could do them as clean or consistently as Mullen could. These videos in the old Tony Hawk games are not just a part of skateboarding history. They're a part of video game history as well, and putting them in shows a passion for the sport as well as how passionate the dev team was. But this game doesn't care about the sport. Hell, it doesn't even animate the tricks properly. Like, look at these janky ass animations. Pop shove-its, kick flips, hard flips, and even grabs like the airwalk and sack tap look horrible. It's called an airwalk for a reason, guys. You're supposed to walk in the air, but not in this game, no. Look at the 900 in Tony Hawk 2. It looks so clean. So fluid. It has the right amount of speed and fluidity. But look at it in HD. It just looks unnatural. Same goes for the nollie flip underflip. Look how clean it looks in Tony Hawk 2, but in HD, it isn't even fucking animated correctly. Like, look at it. It looks ridiculous. But let's look on the bright side. This game has 3 exciting new modes. Hawkman, Big Head Survival, and Projectives. Hawkman is very bad. In this mode, you have to collect these certain pellets while doing a certain trick, like grinding or manualing. Now, this mode wouldn't be so bad, but this game mode is entirely based on precision, and that's one of the things this game does terribly, so expect to never get the 6 score. Big Head Survival is a fine idea and concept, but it's way too easy. I beat every single map on my first try in under 30 minutes. In this mode, your head keeps growing and growing, and you gotta keep doing tricks to make it stop growing and reach the time limit. Remember how I said earlier that reverts don't slow you down? Well, it just makes this mode a walk in the park with zero challenge. much. Just get into a quarter pipe and mix reverts and grabs to your heart's content and you'll always win, without fail. The last one is projectives. Just like Big Head Survival, it's actually a good idea and concept, but it fails flat thanks to the developer's incompetence. The new objectives they added are fine, but the goals are the exact same for each level, making it incredibly repetitive. This game confuses me on so many levels, because on one hand you have actually good quality of life improvements, like a gap checklist that actually shows where they are on the map with descriptions, the ability to quick restart by pressing the select button, and completion bars telling you how far you are, including cache icons, which is actually a really good feature, and I wish that the original game did that. Yet on the other hand, you have tons of downgrades, like not being able to skip or even edit any songs in the soundtrack. The game supports controller, but it doesn't show any controller icons in game. You can't view or edit your tricks in the pause menu. There's a map screen, but it's completely useless because it doesn't even show you where you are on it, and you can't even change your own goddamn graphics settings in the options menu, except for the resolution. You gotta go into a fucking INI file like a goddamn caveman, and I ain't talking about the caveman from older games, guy. There's also no goal cameras in the game, so it was sometimes hard to figure out what I was supposed to do for the newer objectives. Also, look how uninspiring the unlocks pop-up looks. Yay. Now just look at Tony Hawk 3's. I just love it. It's so much personality and hype. I miss you, Tony. I say that like he's fucking dead or something. A few months after the game was released, Robomoto would release the Revert Pack, which added 3 levels from Pro Skater 3 and reverts into the game. Unfortunately, you can't buy this DLC anymore, unlike the game, and since I'm a good boy according to YouTube, I'm not gonna find a way to get it. Plus, I just don't really care. So overall, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD is one of the worst remakes I've ever played. Not only does it shit on the legacy of the franchise, but it also shits on skateboarding as a whole. There's zero reason to play this game nowadays anyway, since an actual remake came out in 2020 by Vicarious Visions, which is really good, and you need to play it, by the way. It's so good I've even 100%ed it like twice, once on PS4 and once on Steam. It's absolutely incredible. Now you may be thinking to yourself, hey Burbus, why'd you cover a game that's like, what, 30 years old at this point and isn't even being supported anymore? But to that I say, it was fun to look back at the Tony Hawk series and see how it was back in the early 2010s in its dark ages. It's really fun to just kind of explore the Tony Hawk franchise in a way and see how far it fell and how far it came. My name is Burbus, and thanks for watching my dumb video. I want you to imagine your favorite video game of all time. Depending on how you play video games, this could be an easy answer, or one of the hardest. It's an answer that can give you anything depending on the person. It's something that I've been trying to answer myself since I first played a video game back in 2006. But over the years, I've played some incredible video games that have genuinely changed my life and how I look at video games as a whole. Games like Halo 2, Fallout 3 in New Vegas, Pokemon Fire Red, Dishonored, Guilty Gear, Stardew Valley, and most recently, Ready or Not. But if I had to choose one game that I consider my favorite of all time, one game that has changed my life and how I play and experience video games, that game would be Skate 3. Skate 3 is a masterpiece. On one hand, it's a fun and semi-realistic skateboarding sim set in a skater's paradise of a city named Port Carverton, where you can grind, grab, flip, and really do whatever you set your mind to. But on the other hand, it's a glitchy, broken, unbalanced, and sometimes just straight up insane video game. But that's what makes it special in my eye. Developed by Black Box, a studio that's work consists of NHL video games from 2000 to 2004, as well as some other masterpieces like Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2. So they definitely have some quality to their name, but their big break, in my opinion, and the game that would be the first in this 3-game trilogy would be Skate. Skate 1 released in 2007, and it came out in a time where skateboarding games were basically inescapable. Of course, you had the Tony Hawk games, a series that you guys know I'm very familiar with at this point. I've already made a couple videos on them. But you had all these other skateboarding games coming out at the time that ranged from pretty alright to not alright. But with all the skateboarding games coming out at the time, no matter their quality, they all had one thing in common. They were all arcade-like skateboarding games. Rack up high combos, do insane gaps while skating unrealistically, and that's not a bad thing, obviously. The only game that I could even think of that tried a more realistic take on skateboarding was Thrasher Skate and Destroy, and that came out all the way back in 1999 for the PlayStation. At the time, in the mid-2000s, gamers wanted a little something different. They wanted a realistic take on skateboarding to scratch that certain itch, which brings us back to Skate. Skate 1 was all about realism and trying to emulate the experience of an up-and-coming skater making their way up the ranks after getting absolutely demolished by a bus, getting surgery on by Mark Gonzalez, and doing a bunch of 360 flips, using the new and improved flick stick system, which was a drastic overhaul to what skateboarding games used to use at the time, which was just face buttons and then just whatever else they decided to do after that. Skate 2 was more of the same, but added a bunch of new tricks, expanded on the world, and added the ability to get off your board. Personally, I love Skate 2 as a video game, as well as many others do. Not that Skate 1 is bad, but it definitely suffers from first game syndrome, if anything. But you read the title of this video, and I'm sure you're wondering why I'm rambling about Skate 1 and 2. Well, Skate 3 released on March 11, 2010, and released in an interesting state. Before the game even came out, there was a demo, and people were already discovering glitches on how to escape the map, as well as whatever the hell this is. But that's all fine and well, most people said, as most of the reviews at the time were very positive when the game came out, and rightfully so in my opinion. Now, what exactly makes Skate 3 my favorite game of all time? Well, in order to explain this, I first need to explain my favorite types of games, which are games that let you solve problems in creative ways. Think of games like Hitman, Dishonored, Fallout New Vegas, and or Cruelty Squad. Immersive sims, if you will. Well, Skate 3 can also fall into that category that lets you solve problems in creative ways. Not really more of an immersive sim, but more of an immersive sim-ish game. Yeah. Skateboarding in real life is all about solving a problem, ergo clearing a gap, in a creative way. Well, Skate 3, unlike real life, is a video game. So solving a problem can be done in multiple ways. Ways not thought possible by the human eye. Let's say I want to get on top of Hartley Stadium. There's no official way of getting up there, but remember when I went on that tangent earlier about Skate 3 being very glitchy? Well, and boom, you're on top. Or let's say you don't get near enough speed to clear this gap. Well, and now you're on the mountain. This right here is why I love this game. The glitches, the exploits, the creativity, all these elements combine together to create an unforgettable experience. The glitches in Skate 3 is why I titled this video A Beautiful Disaster, because on one hand, you have the realistic skating with a huge playground to mess around with, and skating in 3 different maps ranging from a university to an industrial area to more of a traditional city map. Yet on the other hand, you have this glitchy and downright insane video game where you can launch, jump, and speed demon your way through any problem. You think with most video games that if it has a ton of glitches, it would be a turnoff for a lot of people, and rightfully so in this modern age, but sometimes the glitches in a video game become the video game, and Skate 3 is a prime example of that. It falls right in between the line of polished video game and this glitchy big rigs-like experience. Think of games like Super Mario 64, Pokemon Red and Blue, and Battle for Bikini Bottom. All very polished games at their core, but the more that players play the game and dig deeper with how they personally experience it, it can cause some unintended effects. To show how insane this game is, here's a spreadsheet showing every known glitch in Skate 3. It's over 250 entries long. That's how passionate this damn community is. From launching yourself into the air to whatever the hell this is, Skate 3 is really just dumb fun for all. But let's say you're not a fan of glitches. Well, you still have this entire game to play with all the base challenges where you can trick however you want and set your mind to. The base game is already deep enough in its mechanics to satisfy any player, especially with the challenges. You want to grind a dozer? Go for it. Want to compete in a skate competition? Hell yeah. Do you want to follow Rob Dyrdek to a location? You really don't, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. And of course, what's a skateboarding game without an incredible soundtrack? I briefly touched on my love for licensed soundtracks in my first YouTube video, which is really bad by the way, please don't watch it, but in that video I somehow neglected to mention Skate 3, and it's a sin that I'll never let down. So let's do that, shall we? Skate 3's soundtrack is god tier, and you need to listen to it right now. There's something just so magical about the soundtrack. Listening to Going Up the Country while you're chilling around university, listening to Eyes of the Panther while absolutely shredding in a contest, or even just hearing the soundtrack play out as you complete challenges are some of the best experiences I've had while gaming. The game introduced me to what reggae music even was in the first place, with songs like Cool Out Son and especially Lover's Leap by Bim Sherman. Such a wonderful tune that is. Skate 3 has been out for almost 15 years now, and with a new Skate game coming out within the next few years or so, I'm hoping that they can capture that lightning in a bottle that Skate 3 did all those years ago. Well, I'm not expecting this game to be a glitch fest, as at the end of the day, this game was, as I described, a beautiful disaster, but if it can capture the energy of a wonderful semi-simulation skateboarding game, then I'll be a happy man. But until that day comes, I'll still be skating in Port Carverton with the rest of us. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to skate off this ledge and...
Oh no, I'm falling!
Pokemon as of late are some of the most boring, repetitive, hand-holdy, and technically unimpressive games on the market right now. Now that I've lost all the Pokemaniacs within the first 5 seconds of this video, let me get something off my chest. I actually like Pokemon. Not modern Pokemon, hell no, those games are still as unimpressive as ever. But old Pokemon? Hell yeah. Pokemon from Gen 1 to Gen 5 was at its peak, and I don't think Game Freak will ever be able to recapture the magic of those games ever again. This isn't nostalgia either. I played Pokemon Gold and Ruby for the first time last year and had a much more enjoyable and memorable experience than this garbage. But let's go back to a minute. Back to the generations of old. The year is 2004, and Pokemon Red and Blue have been out for 8 years by this point. Okay, so really we're going back to 1996. These two games are some of the best and most influential games of all time. Are these games perfect? Hell no. Are they well programmed? Are you looking at the screen right now? Well, yes, these games were held together with the equivalent of band-aids and glue sticks. That wasn't the point of the games and what made them fun. Well, for me at least. It was that sense of exploration, the music, the easy to pick up but hard to master gameplay, and of course, the Pokemon themselves. These little bastards are ingrained into everyone's minds for a reason. I mean, who could forget such classics as Charizard, Gengar, Rock with Arms, Spoon Man, and my personal favorite, Stickbird. Red and Blue had it all. Yet at the end of the day, the Pokemon can't save the fact that these games still have a lot of jank and technical issues. So what if Game Freak did something like, I don't know, what is that called when you remake it? Oh, remake them! Okay, so back to 2004 now. Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, but more specifically Fire Red because that's the one I played the most, are some of the best games I've ever played and hands down some of the best Pokemon games ever made. Period. It takes everything that made the first generation so special and adds onto it with stuff that was worth keeping from Ruby and Sapphire. Now first things first, what actually makes these games masterpieces? Well, in order to explain that, I must explain what made the first game so great. So, it's time for a Burbus history dump. Pokemon Red and Blue are the kind of games where you can leave your house without talking to your mom, walk into grass, get ambushed and killed by a rat, and spawn outside the hospital without any explanation. It's absolutely beautiful and I love it. The first Pokemon games are the kind where they tell you barely anything with almost no hand-holding. You want to know how to catch a Pokemon? Alright, I hear you brother, here's some Pokeballs, figure it out my guy. Oh, what's that? You can't beat the first gym because you chose Charmander at the beginning because you wanted to be the cool kid like everyone else in school? Tough luck my guy, go catch a frickin' Butterfree or something, I ain't your dad, go figure it out. You may call that bad game design, but me? I call it a fun time. Figuring things out in video games is half the fun of them to me. Of course, games do need tutorials in them, obviously, but make them a separate game mode from the game itself, or seamlessly incorporate it into gameplay. The best kind of tutorials in games are the ones where you don't even realize there's a tutorial there at all and just start playing, slowly figuring out the game mechanics as you go. Red and Blue doesn't stop you like the new games nowadays to do some bullshit like, alright, watch this cutscene, no you can't skip it, make your character watch a cutscene, leave your house, watch another cutscene, get your starter Pokemon, watch a cutscene, enter a new area, watch a cutscene, are you getting what I'm saying now? In the first game, you name your character, name your rival, get your starter, do a battle to learn the mechanics, and boom, you're in the world of Pokemon. Congratulations, try to get further than Oak ever did. Now, where does this all fall into Pokemon Fire Red? Well, remember when I said how many minutes ago that the first two games were held together by glue and band-aids? Well, Fire Red keeps everything that made the first game so special while fixing a lot of the core game's issues. No more will you find Missing No, go to a glitch city, fight whatever this is, and explore the game's file system to teleport you to the end of the game. Man, Red and Blue glitches were wild. There are a couple of things that Fire Red did to help the shit-eating toddlers that couldn't beat the first game, though. The old man near the exit of Viridian City that I always ignored in the original will stop you to teach you how to catch a Pokemon, and you will enjoy it, my friend. As well as Oak will tell you the obvious that hurting Pokemon will make them faint. Thanks, Oak. I was peeing in my sweatpants this entire time, so I appreciate the assistance. Gen 3 is when they really started up the hand-holding. Not to a massive extreme, but a noticeable one. You have the help menu you can access anytime by pressing left or right bumper, and the old man gives you a TV that teaches you how to play the game you already knew how to play. Thanks, Pokey Dude. If that even is your real name. Anywho, let's start Fire Red now, shall we? When we first start the game, we get this message from the devs. In the world which you are about to enter, you will embark on a grand adventure with you as the hero. Speak to people and check things wherever you go, be it towns, roads, or caves. Gather information and hints from every source. Through your adventure, we hope that you will interact with all sorts of people and achieve personal growth. That is our biggest objective. I love when games do this stuff. It reminds us of all the talented people who make games like this, and it shows passion before we even start the game. We then get the pep talk from Oak, choose our sexual preference, name ourselves and our rival, then set out on our Pokemon adventure. Now, as a remake, what does Fire Red offer that the originals don't? Well, first off, just look at it. The game is built off the Ruby and Sapphire engine, so it has all its quirks and charms. The inventory is much better in the remake. You have actual columns and submenus compared to the unorganized shitshow that was the first game. Berries also make their way in, which is a nice addition, as well as dual special stats, natures, genders, an EXP bar in battle. Enemy Pokemon actually run out of PP and no longer prioritize super effective moves, so the game feels much more fair a lot of the time. As well as double battles make it in, because those are definitely fun and not annoying in the slightest. But overall, Gen 1 is still here under this game, and that's what I love most about it. It takes most of what makes Gen 3 amazing and adds Gen 1 to it to create this near masterpiece of an experience. It's still got most of what made Gen 1 special though, even its disadvantages and wacky shit. Fighting and rock types still ain't the best, psychic types completely outclass almost every other type in the game, the Pokemon variety in caves and water are really lackluster, bug types just suck, and HM still exists for all the 99% of people who hate those. Okay, I don't get all this HM hate. HMs are tied to game progression. They're moves that also work like perks to access new areas. What's not to like about that? Oh no, I have to sacrifice a move slot to make room for cut. Well then you get your ass down to Route 1, cat yourself a rat, and cut down the goddamn tree with the rat! Not to say HMs are perfect though, I can obviously see the arguments being made against them, especially when you find an area you want to go to, but you either A, don't have the Pokemon with you that have the HMs, or B, just don't have the HM to begin with. But I personally enjoy HMs because it adds a layer of game progression in not one, but two ways, making the overall experience feel more engaging to me. Speaking of engaging, the battles. This game nails that shit. Later games would overcomplicate the battles with shit like double battles, triple battles, and whatever the hell rotation battles were, but Fire Red stays with the simplicity of the first game. No useless features or gimmicky bullshit, just you and your opponent, as things should be. A lot of weird oversights with the combat were also fixed in this game, like focus energy being broken, Hyper Beam needing no recharge if you KO someone, counters being really wonky, dire hits not working, as well as during damage calculation, the game will eventually attempt to divide by 0. This causes the game to freeze indefinitely. God, these games really were held together by glue. I feel like a big reason why these games still sell like hotcakes even after almost 30 years is because Game Freak has perfected its combat formula and stuck with it for so long. Fire Red was released in a time when Pokemon was still fresh and innovative, so naturally it feels much better to play than the modern games that feel like they're squeezing as many unnecessary features into the game as possible. Of course, at the end of the day, this is still a Pokemon game, even after all the praise I've been giving it. You may have noticed that some of this gameplay looks a little faster than normal. That's because I use speed hacks. This game loves to waste your time, just like all Pokemon games, really. You'll spend a shit ton of time sitting in menus, dialogue, and God forbid if you or your opponent have status effects in combat, you'll be sitting through a Book of Mormon's worth of dialogue. Or if I want to cut down a tree or surf, they first ask me if I want to do the thing I just told them I want to do, and then play this dumbass animation. Like, come on, Game Freak, can we speed things up here a bit? Maybe it's just my ADHD-riddled fucked up brain, but I can't stand how slow this game can be at some points. You spend tons of time waiting for Pokemon to be caught, waiting for random encounters to start, waiting to find the Pokemon you want, and waiting for eggs to hatch. My only real downside with this game is just how slow it is, and it's why using speed hacks in an emulator are really enticing to me. Don't hate the player, guys. Hate the game. I mean, you can hate me, just don't be mean about it. But Pokemon has that kind of combat and gameplay formula where even after all the waiting for shit to happen, I can't stop playing this game. Please help me. Catching Pokemon, battling, leveling up, and exploring never gets old to me, and I think that's a huge strength of this game. Kanto is big, but not too big. You can easily find your way around, and I never felt confused on where to go next unless the game wants you to feel confused in its puzzles or caves. Especially since Game Freak added this fucking pre-game previously on Dragon Ball Z thing that makes it easy to understand where to go next. Now, where you go to in this game is also amazing. I'm really good at transitions, I swear. Let's talk about the locations. Of course, you got the small town vibes of Pallet Town and Viridian City, the ports and oceans of Vermilion and Cinnabar Island, as well as the bustling city vibes of Saffron and Celadon. The remake makes all these classic locations stand out a lot more and are much more memorable because of it. Like, look at Saffron City in Fire Red compared to the original. It's like a night and day difference. And of course, who could forget Lavender Town, a place so memorable people wrote shitty creepypastas about it back in the day. Oh yeah, that and the dead Pokemon. Of course, you can't talk about the locations without talking about the music as well. Pokemon has that kind of effect that Sonic games do, where even if the games are god-awful, the guys over in the music department are just out here making bangers left and right. I love how as soon as you step outside, you get that beautiful music by Junichi Masuda. The first game also had good music, but in my opinion, the remake's music is much better. All the tracks were remixed from the originals and sound like how Game Freak wanted them to in Red and Blue, and the Game Boy Advance really makes the soundtracks hit much harder, especially during battles. I love how the soundtrack matches almost every single area you visit perfectly, like how Pallet Town sounds very calming and welcoming, a perfect vibe to set in an open area. Then when you step out into Route 1, the soundtrack changes to match that sense of adventure you're about to go on. When you first get to Viridian Forest, the place is supposed to feel like this confusing maze, so the soundtrack matches that with its slow and uncanny vibes. Or way later in the game when you arrive at Silphco, the place is taken over by Team Rocket and is a mess with people panicking, and the soundtrack matches that to a fucking T. And of course, you can't forget about Lavender Town. I don't care what people say about this theme is fucking cursed, okay? It's so fitting and it sends shivers down my spine every time I hear it, even as a 21-year-old man. Fire Red also adds these new locations called the Sevi Islands. They're pretty alright and have a couple good side quests attached to them, and even have their own good music with its tropical vibes that I just can't get enough of. But other than the Pokemon Moltres, there's really no reason to come back here, except for the post-game content, baby! Fire Red, like most Pokemon games, really shines in the post-game content. When or if you collected 60 Pokemon, not only do you get access to the rest of the Sevi Islands, but you also get access to the National Dex, adding a whole new part to the game. It's kind of like playing two games in one, honestly. Like, you beat your rival and you think it's over, but then Oak comes up to you and says, hey, you're not done yet. The post-content revolves around the Sevi Islands and is pretty intriguing. Basically, after you beat Blaine's gym, Bill stops you and says, hey man, Game Freak added a new location to Kanto, let's explore this shit. You go there via boat to meet this man named Celio, who's trying to establish a link between his PC and Bill's. He wants us to get a meteorite from the sky at the nearby game corner, but oh no, his daughter is missing. What will we ever do? We go to 3 Island to find her, but see the local crackheads harassing a store owner. We beat them, make it to the forest, find the girl, give her back to the dad, retrieve the meteorite, and leave the islands. Mission accomplished, good work. After we beat the Elite Four and have at least 60 Pokemon to our name, we can head back to the islands to explore new areas and Pokemon with the new side quest to go on. Remember that Celio guy? He wants us to collect a Ruby and, Sapphire. Very cool, Game Freak. To power his machine that'll connect PCs from Kanto and Hoenn together. In order to do this, you'll have to go to the other islands and read Braille. You know, Braille. The text for blind people? But if you're playing this game, then how would you read it? I genuinely don't know how people figured this out back in the day. Like, did they just go up to their blind grandma and say, please grandma, I need your help, I gotta know the lore! Another thing I love about Fire Red is that it just fixes all the jank from the first game and lets you play the game as intended. For the most part. Yeah, Fire Red isn't free from glitches and exploits. This is a Game Freak game after all. We all knew this was coming. Those fancy Gen 3 and Gen 2 Pokemon they added? Well, if the post-game happens and you happen to encounter Raikou or Entei in the wild grass and they use Roar, they'll just disappear from the game forever. Or, let's say you have 2 hours to kill. You can go to Nugget Bridge, defeat everyone except for the last trainer, get the nugget from him, lose intentionally, and you'll notice that you still have that nugget he gave you. Repeat this process of absolutely sucking dick for 2 hours and you'll be a millionaire in no time. Absolutely incredible programming, Game Freak never changed. But overall, Fire Red is pretty glitch-free unless you're actively looking for glitches. Pokemon Fire Red was released in a time where Pokemon was inescapable. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire released a couple years prior and would set the basis for this incredible remake. I honestly feel like I owe all my love for Fire Red to Ruby and Sapphire. Those games are also masterpieces that could get a video on their own at some point. I mean, in what other E-rated game can you summon a godlike being, fight environmental terrorists, and battle this fucking twink? Over the years, I would play more and more Pokemon games, mainline and spin-off, and you want to know the real kicker? Almost none of these games can match the feeling of being welcomed into a digital world like Pokemon Fire Red did all those years ago. When I play Pokemon Fire Red, I feel like the game and I have this certain trust, that trust being my own intelligence. Sure, I may not be the smartest in real life. God damn it. But Gens 1 through 3 wasn't afraid to let the player go off the beaten path, let them create their own adventure with the tools that the game gave them. When I play any of the modern Pokemon games, say from X and Y to Scarlet and Violet, I don't feel like this guy who's going on his own grand adventure. I feel like a dumb, stupid little kid without object permanence. If Pokemon really wants to evolve and innovate their formula, they need to start treating their players like functioning adults with a full frontal lobe. Take something as simple as the opening of Pokemon Fire Red compared to, let's say, Pokemon Sun. What took less than 5 minutes in Fire Red to start exploring the world at your own pace gets turned into this almost 18-minute exchange of cutscene after cutscene after cutscene and cutscenes and cutscenes and god damn it, I just want to play the game already, and oh no, I died of boredom in the process. You think with the bajillions of dollars that Game Freak makes every year with Pokemon, they'd be able to make games that don't look like this, that don't treat me like a shit-eating toddler, or make me sit through hours of dialogue without any voice acting, might I add. Come on, Game Freak, it's 2025, get with the program already. Although, even after all this bitching I've been doing, I can still admit that Pokemon does still have potential, though. I mean, look at Legends Arceus, for example. Sure, it wasn't perfect, far from it in fact, but at least it actually felt like something new, and Game Freak actually somewhat listened, even if it didn't really land for me. Overall, the message I'm trying to get across with this video is, this game is so goddamn good, please play it, you're doing yourself a disservice. Pokemon can actually feel fun and innovative, but it's really fucking ironic that a game from over 20 years ago feels more innovative than all the slop we've been getting recently. Hopefully when Legends ZA comes out, I'll finally feel like how I did all those years ago when I first booted up Fire Red. But despite what this video may have been telling you, I actually want these games to be good. I actually want to have fun with every single one that I play and have it be this big moment in gaming for me. But when you make billions every year off of merchandise and your games come out looking like this, I'm sorry, but I can't take you seriously anymore. Anywho, this fucking stupid video has gone on for way longer than even Game Freak spends on making their games, so I'm gonna end this here. My name is Burbus, and thank you for watching. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. If you've been watching my channel for like, I don't know, 8 months, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of the Tony Hawk franchise. Doesn't matter what it is. Tony Hawk 1, 2, 3, Underground, American Wasteland, all the games are from Neversoft are good, really. As we all know by this point, the series took a steep decline in the late 2000s and 2010s, but even after all these years, I still can't stop playing them. But one part of the franchise that isn't really talked about much is all the wacky stuff that Activision would release with this funny Birdman's name on it. I mean, in the 2000s, Tony Hawk was basically everywhere. He was in video games, movies, TV shows, radio shows, anything and everything had this man's name on it. So of course, the main moneymaker, his video game franchise, was a perfect way to market anything to anyone. So in turn, Activision, doing what we all know they do best, which as we know is ruining and oversaturating the market with AAA shovelware, would release a plethora of Tony Hawk games. Of course, you had the main series by Neversoft, and most of, if not all of them, in my opinion, were really good, but then you got the wacky shit. Stuff that was basically made for nothing but money, and Activision in the investors meeting would go, "Alright guys, we just made $10 billion this year, but we want $1 billion more. You know that Tony Hawk guy we own, have a contract with? Well, let's just put him on something or port one of his already existing games to other consoles. And don't worry, we'll give each of these studios like 2 weeks and $10 to make it happen so we can profit off it. Then we'll have billions more in no time. And maybe my wife will finally talk to me." So in turn, we have some of the wackiest and most obscure games to ever have Tony Hawk's name on it. And that's what I want to talk about today. Some of the most obscure Tony Hawk games that you've probably never heard of. But before we do that, here's a message from my alter ego. Hey guys, it's me, Burbussy. I'm Burbus's alter ego who doesn't have a PNG made of him yet, and I'm here to tell you all about his coffee page. Do you like his videos? You don't? Well, you better. If there's one thing that Burbus loves more than making content, it's money. But he hasn't made any off of YouTube yet. The horror, how will he pay for big rigs on Steam now? But with his coffee page, you can give him your hard-earned cash so he can buy cool things like a sealed copy of Cory in the House for DS. So go ahead and click the link down below to donate, whether it be $10, $100, $1, I don't care, I'm only the messenger. Okay, back to you, Burbus. Man, that guy is annoying. Anywho, on to the wacky stuff. The first game I want to talk about is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 on the N64. Okay, to be fair, this is the least obscure game out of all the ones I'm going to talk about, but when am I ever going to get to cover Tony Hawk 3 on the N64? So it's going in this video. My overall opinion of the game is pretty solid. Of course, the elephant in the room is that it looks worse than the 6th generation console versions, but I mean, hey, what can you really do when you're running on a console that ran this game at 10 FPS? But honestly, the graphics aren't really the issue with this game for me. It's the other stuff that the developers had to do to fit this game on an N64 cartridge. The game is built off the PS1 version of the game, which I'm sure a lot of you know is pretty different compared to the PS2 and other versions of the game. The skate shop is just a static image compared to the 3D environment in the PS2 version. Los Angeles and Canada are swapped in the level select, as well as the levels are incredibly different from one another. Also, in the N64 version, instead of that cool FMV skate video you get at the beginning of the game, you just get this pretty goofy and at the same time kind of charming real-time rendered skate video of all the skaters and their in-game models doing their tricks. Yeah, obviously they had to cut down a lot of stuff to fit this. You can't get any unlockable videos, you can only unlock Officer Dick and Wolverine, although I am kind of surprised to see them here if I'm being honest, as well as the music is very interesting. Tony Hawk 3 has an amazing soundtrack and is without a doubt not only my favorite Tony Hawk soundtrack, but also just one of my favorite licensed soundtracks of all time. Old me didn't know what the fuck he was talking about when he made that terrible video. So, how does the N64 version of the soundtrack fare? Is it good? Is it comparable? Spoiler alert. No, not at all. I can't actually play any of the music, otherwise YouTube will come to my home, so instead I'll just link the soundtrack down below. But if you want my TLDR, don't forget the Joker! Speaking of those levels I mentioned earlier, they have a lot of differences compared to one another. Foundry is basically the same as the PS2 version, except without a secret area. Skater Island doesn't have the pirate ship area, but is overall exactly the same. Canada is very different from the PS2 version, with the forest/mining area being changed completely to just a mining area, as well as the shop area behind the Welcome to Canada sign. Rio is the same, but just adds a new secret area and removes the old one. Suburbia is kind of the same, with just a few things moved around and no haunted house, unfortunately. Airport removes the lowest level and remade the helicopter landing pad secret area to be this pseudo skate park. Los Angeles adds this elevator area inside that glass building. I have no idea what it's called in the original game, and the earthquake has already happened when you start the level. Tokyo is kind of similar to the PS2 version, although it doesn't have some of the kickers, and I believe the secret area is gone. And finally, there's no cruise ship level, although in order to compensate for this, they added a downhill level set in Rio, and it's just okay. Other than the levels being different, the game itself feels pretty alright to play. My only real complaint is that they changed the special sound effect for some reason, as well as reverts just kind of work whenever they feel like it. Not enough to get me to stop playing the game, but it can definitely get annoying at times. Reverts also slow you down much quicker in this version compared to any other that I know of. You can pull off only like 2 before you come to a complete stop. This actually makes the game much harder than the PS2 version. But other than that, I can't really say I hate this version of the game. It's got its charm, and that's what keeps it from being just another forgettable port. It was also the last game ever released on the N64, so it even has some historical value to it. Overall, I recommend this version of the game. Just make sure you turn off the in-game soundtrack and just play your own in the background. Now for our next game, it isn't really all that much of a game, but more of a playable advertisement. You guys remember Flash games, right? Well, seeing how 0% of you are 13 to 17 and the rest of you are liars, you probably don't. Tony Hawk's Underground 2 is a game that exists on everything, from PlayStation to PC, but did you know that there was also a Flash game of it too? Yeah, I can see why you haven't. Okay, so there's really not much to talk about this game. You're skating down a street trying to dodge obstacles and spray graffiti all over these spots that say tag point. The more tags you spray and the longer you go without getting hit, the higher score you get. Now that sounds pretty simple on paper. Because it is. But this game is just so badly programmed that it's almost impossible to do anything. Whenever you think you're about to dodge or jump over an obstacle, the game just says nah and you get hit anyways. Not to mention that the audio in the game sounds like an intern made it in 10 minutes. When you get hit, you don't just go, ow, you do a fucking blood-curdling scream. You can also just spam the tag button and your guy will just go, yeah. Now, at the end of the day, This game was just made to promote Underground 2, nothing more, nothing less. I have no idea how effective this game was, but I'm sure it probably got some kid out there to buy the game. It's just incredibly interesting that this was even made in the first place. Like in Underground 2 on console, we're going on a world destruction tour, but in Underground 2, the Flash game, we're going on an acid trip. Okay, so now for these last couple of games, I couldn't actually play them because they're either A, lost media, or B, I couldn't actually find any way to play them because they're all old-ass phone applications. So I'll have to rely on good old YouTube videos and the internet to tell you about these games. Links to the footage I use, as always, is in the description. Our first game on the list of games hidden away in the Activision vault is a game called Tony Hawk's Shred Session. The game was released on... Oh wait, it never came out. Okay, so that's not entirely true. The game did have a soft launch on May 22nd, 2014 in some countries, but after 4 months it was pulled from the App Store for seemingly no reason. The game seemed to be an endless runner, because if there's one type of game that mobile gamers love, it's endless runners. In the game, you skate in 3 different lanes, kinda like the Brain Rot game, while you pull off tricks to get higher scores at the end of a level. There's also this vert mode that kinda reminds me of those shitty Game Boy Color ports of the old Tony Hawk games from back in the day. Other than that, there's also a store, because we can't have a mobile game without a store, guys, where you can spend your hard-earned cents and dollars. Yeah, I don't know if that's what they actually called them in the final product. In this store, you can buy cool things like shirt and shoe. You like shirt and shoe, don't you? If I'm being honest, this game looks kind of boring. Hell, maybe Activision thought the same as they took it down just a few months later. I mean, all you do in this game is just run in a straight line while wiggling your finger on screen like a madman. I honestly don't think they were missing much with this one being delisted. You can find an IPA of it on the internet if you really want to play it, but that's for you to figure out, not me. Our next game is another mobile game, Yippee, but this one is a bit more interesting. Y'all know Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, right? Of course you do, but have you heard of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on iOS? No, the footage you're looking at on screen isn't an emulator. This is an official port of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 running on an iPhone. Released on April 1st, 2010, Activision would release this joke of a port on the App Store. And no, I'm not just saying that because it was released on April 1st. This is probably one of the worst ports of Tony Hawk 2 that's ever been released. Well, of the official console versions at least. Now I'm sure you're wondering why I would say such heresy about one of the best games of all time. Well fine, I'll tell you. Well first off, there's no Create-A-Skater, there's no Create-A-Park, Spider-Man isn't in the game, and the controls are god-awful. Tony Hawk games require tactile button feedback for precision, but obviously you don't have that with the touchscreen. Like, look at this gameplay I found. This guy is struggling to pull combos off. Also, not to mention that the entire soundtrack was replaced with filler garbage that barely fits the game at all. Except Interested in Madness. That song slaps. Now, I can actually attest to this game being awful because I genuinely played this game back in the day on my grandma's iPad. The game just felt awful to play on a touchscreen, and I remember that the game crashed all the time. It even kept crashing at the bull ring every time as soon as I got a medal, so I couldn't even beat the game. But I suffered through it anyways, just because I wanted to play Tony Hawk on the go. And that's who this game was made for. Dumbass kids that you hand an iPad to on a road trip to get them to shut up. This game released at a time where every single major publisher was just trying to release their console games on mobile, not actually realizing that games that you control with a proper game controller never translate well to mobile platforms and their shitty touchscreens. At least the last game I talked about was specifically made for mobile devices in mind, but Tony Hawk 2 wasn't. Not even close. The game would be delisted just a couple years after it launched, and Tony Hawk 2 would never see the light of day on mobile ever again. It's kind of a shame, honestly, because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on mobile sounds awesome, but they just didn't stick the landing. Kinda like Tony Hawk when he tried to do the 900 at 48. And now, for our last game. A game that I didn't even know existed until one of the Rethought devs pointed out to me in a VC, so, thanks, Drake. This is all your fault. The last game I'm going to talk about is called Tony Hawk's Project 8 for Java-based phones. Yes, we're going there. Released sometime in 2006 or 2007. I couldn't actually get a straight answer for the year it was released on. That's how you know this game is really good. Tony Hawk's Project 8 for Java-based phones is definitely a game that exists, I'll give it that. At first I thought this game was lost media, but after 2 more seconds of Googling, I actually found out you can play it online. So I did, and this is one of the weirdest ports of a video game I have ever played in my life. I wouldn't even really consider this like a port, it's more of like a random ass game they slapped Tony Hawk's name on to make like $5 off some gullible Java game players. The game consists of you controlling a black silhouette while you skate down a hill that's also pitch black. You can do tricks, but you have to do this pseudo rhythm game to perform them, as well as you can also grind on rails. That is the entire game. You skate down a hill, grind on a rail sometimes, and play Dance Dance Revolution when you go off a ramp. I guess it's kind of funny when you do a bail animation, as well as when you win you can sometimes just fall on your ass. Really, the only gameplay loop is going for a high score. But when the game is so boring, why would anyone want to do that? I guess I can't be too hard on this game, seeing how it was released in the prehistoric era of mobile phone gaming, but it doesn't change the fact that it's boring as hell. The only thing keeping me awake is this trippy-ass music. So those were some of the Tony Hawk games that you may or may not have heard of. From games that were good, to games that were bad, to games that have nothing to do with Tony Hawk, this franchise has seen some wacky games to grace the Birdman's name. With Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 on its way very soon, don't worry, you'll get your turn soon. It was kind of fun to look back at Tony Hawk's past to dig up some games that I don't even think he remembers working on. I mean, this man has been hitting his head for like 50 years. He's bound to make some shitters every now and then. If you would like to see me cover more weird-ass Tony Hawk games that you know of, then let me know in the comments. I would love to learn more about these types of games. If you also enjoy my content, then do what that Burbussy guy said at the beginning of the video and consider supporting me on Ko-fi so you can support my crippling Dr. Pepper addiction. And with all that being said, my name is Burbus, and thank you for watching. You know, I've been sitting at my computer for about 20 minutes trying to figure out how I'm even going to start this video, but nothing could have prepared me for the amount of pain and disappointment I would experience with this absolute disaster of recycled code and ideas that are masquerading as a new Tony Hawk game. I never wanted to make a video like this. I know every YouTuber under the sun has said that, but it's the only way I can actually explain the title and content of this video that you're about to watch. I wanted this game to be amazing. I wanted to relive my nostalgia in a new way, and I wanted to love and cherish this game in every way I possibly could. But that's just not happening in this video. I can't keep lying to myself. This game fucking sucks. This remake, and I'm putting remake in heavy quotation marks here, is one of the most frustrating, half-baked, rushed, and piss-poor attempts at making a remake of all time. I am not joking when I tell you that I am genuinely baffled by this game and everything it tries to do. If you want my too long, don't care about your video, Burbussy explanation, then I'll give you this. Do not buy this game. Do not pay $50 for this slop or $70 for the deluxe edition. If you value the hard work of real artists and hate AI slop bullshit, do not buy this game. This game is full of AI-generated slop that'll make you want to credit card yourself. If you love Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 and want to relive the game in its original glory, you won't get that here. So do not buy this game. And lastly, if you want an improved version of Tony Hawk 3, 4, or hell, even the 1+2 remake, you will not get that here. So I say once more, do not buy this game. For all of you who are still here, thank you. Now let me explain myself on why this game is absolute trash for God knows how long. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 are absolute masterpieces that need no introduction, and if you haven't played these games yet, then I highly recommend that you do so before you start this video. You don't even need to 100% these games, just play them for no joke 10 minutes and you'll understand why this game falls flat on its face and is an absolute disgrace to be called a remake. Get ready, because I'm going full-on autistic hyperfixation mode on this game while bringing out my almost 18 years of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater knowledge to tell you and get you to understand why this game is absolute trash. Hell, for a lot of the points I'm gonna make, you don't even need Tony Hawk knowledge, you just need basic understanding of how video games should work to fully understand how terrible this game is. Okay, let's start before the game is even released. In February, a mysterious countdown appeared on the official Tony Hawk website. Ooh, boy, what could this be, said everyone. Could it be 3+4? Of course it was. What else would it be? The trailer drops on March 4th and everyone gets hyped. Pre-orders open up. The return of the king, we were all thinking. But wait a second. Who's developing this game? It can't be Vicarious Visions because Bobby Shitdick merged them into Blizzard to add more breast milk supply to the company. So who's making this game? Did Neversoft come back from the grave? Well, no, because this is Activision, where all fun goes to die. But that's alright, that's all good. We don't need Vicarious Visions to make this game. You know, the only studio left that actually knew what they were doing. Instead, we got Iron Galaxy. Now, what is an Iron Galaxy, and what kind of games have they made? They must have some bangers under their belt if they're able to work on a franchise as prestigious as Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, right? Well, in order of release, these are the AAA bangers they've made. You're gonna want to sit down for this one. Racketeer, an Angry Birds knockoff for the Kinect. Dive Kick, a game that I've actually never played myself, but I've heard is actually pretty good. So far we are 1 for 2 right now. Their next game was Killer Instinct. No, silly, not that one. Yeah, that one. They also technically didn't even develop this game at all. The first season was developed by Double Helix Games, which, They don't exist anymore. So Iron Galaxy just picked up where they left off after Double Helix was doing that whole dying thing. Their next game was called Extinction, which is a really fitting title because nobody has ever heard of this game before. And then in 2022, they would release their magnum opus, a game that everybody agreed was their best title yet. Rumbleverse, a game so good that Iron Galaxy and the publisher Epic Games said, you know dog, this game is like pretty good and all, but like, we're not making any money off this game, so fuck it, and shut the game down exactly 1 year later. So far we have Kinect Shovelware, an actual good game, a game they didn't even develop, a game that everyone agreed was mid or bad, and a game that was so good it didn't make any money and was banished into the gaming shadow realm forever. But that's all fine and well, most people said, huffing their copium. Maybe Iron Galaxy can make this game be their breakout hit and redefine the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater franchise in the process. Oh wait, what's that? Forced Career Mode is being changed to the classic 2-minute timer, and the soundtrack is completely different, and they're removing all the edgy jokes, and Chicago and Carnival are being cut, and they're putting in new maps in replacement for the maps they cut for no reason? Oh, what the fuck?
I go by the name of Lupe Fiasco.
Okay, so it can't all be doom and gloom, right? Oh wait, they added the Doom Guide of a Digital Deluxe Edition. Okay, so it can't all be gloom, right? Well, let's launch this game and get hyped, as the marketing will tell you. But before we can even start the game, we need you to sign a 3-part license agreement, because you don't actually own this game, and Activision is going to take all your information and give it to Tony Hawk himself, so he can sell it and take his fourth wife out to dinner. But fine, let's just sign this, and now let's start with Creative Skater. God damn it, this is the exact same Creative Skater as 1+2, with 0 changes at all. You still have the same clothing options with very limited hairstyles and face options to choose from. You still can't rename your skater or resize anything on their body, not to mention there's still no glasses options either. You'd think with the 5-year gap that these two releases have between each other that they would add more options to the character customization, but no. To put into perspective how dumb this is, let's look back at the games that this game is trying to remake and see what they did. In Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, which was released almost 25 years ago by the way, you could rename your skater at any time, choose from a nice list of glasses and even backpacks. You could also change their height and weight to make the skater of your dreams. Sure, the hair and face options were a bit limited, but just a year later in Tony Hawk 4, they added tons of new hairstyles, glasses, wristwear, and face options. It was an amazing upgrade to the already pretty serviceable Creative Skater from the last game. But even after all these great improvements, Neversoft went the extra mile to completely revamp the simple height and weight system from the last game to be a complete body scaling system where you could change almost anything about your character. And remember, this was all in 1 year of development time back in the PS2 era. In 1 year, we had all of these great improvements to just one singular part of the game. But in 5 years, we have the exact same recycled system from the last one. Talk about a letdown. But whatever, let's just be a good little consumer and ignore that for now. It's better than it not being in the game at all, right? Let's start with the Pro Skater 3 career. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is my favorite game of all time, and the only other game that comes close to its spot is, spoiler alert, another skateboarding game with a 3 in the title. So I sit here before you to tell you that the Tony Hawk 3 side of the game is mostly okay, but also very bad at the same time. I first want to start out by saying that the level design and goals are mostly intact, except for a couple of very minor, not a big deal, huge issues that I will talk about later. But Tony Hawk 3 career in this game is pretty fun on a first playthrough. When I first loaded into Foundry and started skating, it was genuinely really fun and exciting, and I can say with confidence that experience stayed with me for most of my first playthrough. There's NPCs walking around the map saying dumb shit like the original game, the cutscenes are back that are nearly 1-to-1 remakes of the originals, and most importantly, the skating feels great just like how it did in the last remake. Sure, it doesn't feel like Neversoft's Tony Hawk, as some people would say, but in my opinion, it still feels like Tony Hawk, and it's what made me suffer through the other half of this game for 25 hours. But I'm still not oblivious to the fact that this part of the game just feels off. Like, where's the pissing guy in Canada that you could knock off the ledge? Why did they change the car chase in LA from a van shooting at cops to a rogue smart car? And why can't any of the cars hit you anymore? The ice cream truck in Suburbia used to run you over, but now it just stops for you. But whatever, I'm going off topic. I'm sure it's nothing. Let's just continue with the Tony Hawk 3 career. Alright, I just completed Tokyo and I'm ready for the cruise ship. Damn, this level looks beautiful. They even got Captain Jennings on the mic. Hell yeah, let's go. Wait a minute. Why are we impressing the skaters? We just did that in Canada like 20 minutes ago. Wait, where the hell are the Neversoft girls? Why do I have to find a toolbox for the guy fixing the ferry instead of just simply wall riding it? Also, what is this stunt gauntlet we have to complete instead of trashing the museum? Oh yeah, I forgot, this game isn't actually a remake at all. Why did you completely change 4's career and somehow made a masterpiece a generic slogfest? Why is there no custom restarts, replays, shuffle bonuses, or text chat? Why are there only 10 songs from the original games in this remake instead of them all? You're telling me you got Goldfinger, Less Than Jake, and Zebrahead in the last remake, but you couldn't get them in this game? Why did these cutscenes look like a middle schooler made them in Blender for the first time? Why is there a spacewalk in the game, but it's locked behind the Digital Deluxe Edition and doesn't even speed you up? And why is Zoo a comp level? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 has been butchered and disfigured beyond recognition in this remake. Now, I'm sure most of you watching this video know this, so instead of telling you it's trash and moving on, I'm going to explain to you in as much detail as my gay little heart can possibly handle to get you to fully understand why this game is garbage. First up, the elephant in the room. That don't actually exist in the game, but I'll get to that later. The goal structure was changed entirely to the classic 2-minute timer goals of the first 3 games. Now personally, I love this structure the most out of all the other games that the franchise has. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, 2, and 3 are all masterpieces to me because of this. The level design complements the style perfectly, and each level was carefully crafted to complement the structure well. Not to say that the other games are bad, far from it in fact. Tony Hawk 4 through American Wasteland are incredible, but the difference between Tony Hawk 3 and 4 is their goal structure and gameplay formula. In Tony Hawk 1, 2, and 3, the gameplay formula is this. You load into a level, look at the goals you need to do as many goals as you can in 2 minutes, end the run, move to the next level, bada bing, bada boom, you're playing Tony Hawk. In Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, the goal structure was changed to be more of a pseudo-open world design where you can choose what goals you want to do and play the game at your own pace. I'm gonna let one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time, and one of the videos that inspired me to become a YouTuber, explain to you how this system works in simple detail.
Here's how you do it in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. You see a guy, you talk to him, immediately the mission starts. You see a guy, you talk to him, immediately the mission starts. You see a guy, you talk to him, immediately the mission starts. Or hell, go to the menu, select the mission, and bam, it immediately starts.
You see how good of a system that is? It's very simple, but it works with Pro Skater 4's level design perfectly. Pro Skater 4's level design is much more open with a lot of flat and wide areas so the NPCs around the world can give you the goals you need to do. Each level was designed carefully so each uniquely designed goal would fit into the world perfectly. But with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4, all these carefully crafted levels and uniquely designed goals are thrown out and desecrated on by the 2-minute timer format. All the carefully crafted goals that fit into the world, gone. All the personality, gone. All the terrible yet amazing Pro Skater voice acting.
Oh, you think you can beat my best 3 combos in a row? Man, you can't even front on that one, kid. Best go home to preschool.
Gone. Now, I don't think I need to explain or tell you why this is an absolutely terrible game design decision to change one formula to another. How does that work? Here's the thing. It doesn't. As I've said before, Tony Hawk 3 and 4 are very different games compared to one another via their gameplay formulas. Tony Hawk 3 is a 2-minute timer-based goal game, while Tony Hawk 4 is a goal-based game with timer elements. So when you combine the elements of Tony Hawk 3, a game whose levels were designed to complement its gameplay formula perfectly, with the levels of Tony Hawk 4, a game whose levels were designed for a completely different type of gameplay style, you get a total clusterfuck of game design elements that can't work with each other in any way possible. It's like mixing Pepsi and milk together. Technically, it's edible. On paper, it sounds like it could work, but that doesn't mean it's gonna taste good.
You know what?
Adding skate letters and 7 banners to tear down in college all in one run can't work together because that's not what the original level designers intended for players to do in their game. But perhaps the remake devs realized this, because in the options menu they added the ability to change the timer to up to an hour. You heard me correctly, the developers were so insecure and not confident enough about their changes to the formula that they added a fucking band-aid fix to the game to try and get it to work. But it doesn't fucking work. The 2-minute time format and goal structure is still here, and just because you added a longer timer doesn't mean you fix the formula at all. It just proves to me that you don't understand anything about Tony Hawk games and you're trying as desperately as possible to relate to them. And to add even more insult to injury to this terrible design choice, the developers decided it would be a great idea to add even more goals to these levels once you complete all the base ones in the game. Let me say this one more time. Iron Galaxy thought it was a great idea to add even more goals to the Tony Hawk 3 and 4 levels, not realizing that the levels from 4 are already way too big to even add classic goal formats in the first place, in turn making this hour timer basically mandatory for the game to work. And these new goals aren't even good either. It's always the same shit of collect combo letters, do a trick over a gap, or do the same goddamn repetitive impress the skaters goal they reuse 6 times throughout the pro goals. I'm not kidding, they reuse this shit a total of 6 times throughout the game. For the love of God, Iron Galaxy, do something creative. Every level in the original had so much creativity and personality that's been removed in this remake. The pimps in London, gone. Knocking tourists into the water in Alcatraz, gone. The zoo, don't even get me started on the zoo. What was one of the most unique levels in the original that was filled with so much personality, like animals you can see all over the map, elephants that you can see and scare to open new areas, lions that can try and kill you, and monkeys that fling shit at you are all gone. The zoo has been turned into one of the most generic maps in the entire series because there's absolutely nothing special going on here anymore. Seeing this remake do this is honestly just very... Oh, thanks, Windows, I appreciate you. Seeing the remake do this is honestly just very belittling towards the original game. Like, their game wasn't good enough to be remade properly, but they had to do it because, hey, the last remake included 2 games, so fine, here you go, this is what you asked for, right? No, this isn't what we asked for. We wanted the original Pro Skater 4 to be shown in all of its glory, but these devs don't give a single fuck about Pro Skater 4. They didn't just remove the goal structure, they also removed 2 of the levels, removed anything that could have been considered edgy, sanitized the hell out of everything as to not offend anyone, and made new levels that are okay, might I add, but still don't fit the game because these levels weren't designed with Pro Skater 4 in mind either. Kurt Tillmans, you knockoff AI-generated Tom Morello-looking motherfucker, can you please explain to me what creative choices went into making this game, because I genuinely don't know what the hell is going on anymore. But it also doesn't seem like Kurt and the gang over at Iron Galaxy know either. Here's prominent member of the Tony Hawk community, Andy THPS, in an interview with Kurt himself.
Is there any plans for any sort of duration of like live op support for like quality of life fixes and like fixing bugs or exploits, like post-release? Is there going to be further development on the game?
We haven't talked about anything post-release yet.
Can you comment on New Game Plus or Game Plus mode, whatever it is called?
What's that?
Is it like a new set of goals after you complete the first set of goals?
It's an interesting idea.
Like, could you answer what is Hawk mode? Like, or is that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, really? Okay.
Very cool, Kurt. Please stick to making Dora the Explorer games. But even after all these brain-dead game design decisions, after all this shitting in my face and trying to exploit my nostalgia for money, this isn't even the worst thing this game tries to pull on us. This game tries to pull something that doesn't just piss on the legacy of 2 beloved games. It pulls something that pisses on the legacy of art and creativity as a whole. I'm of course talking about... Something about these deck graphics feel off. This graffiti doesn't make any sense, this zombie looks like shit, this astronaut looks like shit, this zombie hand looks like shit. Hey, wait a minute, Burbussy. Yeah, brother, what's up? Zoom in for me on this image. Oh my god. Does that say pest and grind? Does that grip tape say fucking Wellum? And in the name of Steven Stone's beautiful twink body, did ChatGPT just poop all over a pinball machine? This map looks so bad. Why? And I'm genuinely asking, why did they ship this map in the game? The people who put this in the game should be fucking embarrassed to have this slop in a product that people are paying money for. If you buy this game for $50 or God forbid $70, you are paying for actual slop. You are paying to be shat on in your face, and these fucking troglodytes at Iron Galaxy and especially Activision will laugh in your face and continue to take your money. And I absolutely love the audacity these devs went to try and hide this fact. Here's AI-generated Tom Morello straight up lying to your fucking face.
Our concept artist who drew out the board for the pinball machine, he is actually a pinball machine collector. He was very passionate about making sure that not only did this look cool and play cool as a Tony Hawk level, but it actually made sense as a pinball machine.
Okay, Tommy Mello, if this is the case, show us the concept art. Show us the person who made it. Give me their name and face because I would absolutely love to talk to them. If this definitely not fake and real person you just pulled out of your ass can show their face, then I would absolutely love to ask them why their map looks like shit. Why every spot in the map looks like they typed the word zombie into ChatGPT and it pooped all this out. And I would also love to ask them, why? but I feel like I can get an answer somehow. There has to be some way I can get an answer for if they used AI art in this game or not. But wait a second, in the credits they list a company by the name of Art Bully Productions that seemingly did all the art for the game. So I decided to email this company and asked if they use AI to make the images in the game. Surely if they didn't use AI, they would want to explain themselves, right? So I emailed them on July 17th asking for a comment, and as I'm writing this part of the script, it is currently August 4th, and as I am recording, it is August 7th, and I still have not gotten a reply. I don't think that they're getting back to me anytime soon, guys. Oh wait, never mind, the Steam page itself just says straight up, yeah, we used AI in this game. But wait a second, that wasn't there before. In fact, I know that wasn't there before because here's a screenshot of what the Steam page looked like on July 11th, and here's what it looks like right now. Thanks Valve for making it mandatory for game devs to put an AI disclosure in their game. You caught Iron Galaxy with their pants down. Now for those of you wondering why I'm so angry at some pixels on a screen, let me explain to you why I'm so angry and passionate about this. Art and creativity is something that I will stand for until the day that I die. Without art, I would not be the person who I am today, and everyone who sees AI slop in not just video games, but any product as a whole should feel insulted. Every video game, piece of music, story, and or drawing you've ever seen is an expression of ideas and personal experience that someone has dealt with in their life. Even this video you're watching right now is art. Sure, it may be art made by an insane person whose fixation is a game franchise that came out almost 26 years ago, but I'm perfectly normal. Even me. I'm art. All the art you see of my Sona and my thumbnails and videos was drawn by my very talented friend, Don Dev Red. He's been making art for years now that channels his personal experiences and interests in life. Like, look at this Doom art he made. Absolute cinema, as the kids would say. Without him, this channel wouldn't even be possible, so thank you. But fuck it, you know, maybe instead of paying my friend to make wonderful art for my channel so he can feed his family, instead I should just use AI to shit out some art in 5 seconds. Let's go to the best site for art in 2025, DeviantArt. Okay, ignoring all the inflation porn, and wow, look at all these incredible results I got. They're so good they don't even follow the prompt I wrote. Wow, look, it even made some pixel art. It's so good it doesn't even follow the basic rules of pixel art. Okay, I think I need to calm down now. And what better way to calm down than by drawing some beautiful art of my own. It's absolutely beautiful. Wait, what were we talking about again? I used to listen to the cops broke it up. I always thought to myself, damn, why they fucked it up? In conclusion, I hate this game if you couldn't tell already. I feel like the most confusing part of this game to me is one of the simplest questions someone could ask. Who was this game even made for? It wasn't made for fans of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater because it just shits on the legacy of all those games. It can't be for fans of video games as a whole because fans of video games actually care about their artistic value as a medium. And it's definitely not for fans of skateboarding because just look at it. Even if we were to ignore all the points I've set up to this point in the video, the game still sucks. Power slides barely work. If you don't have a trick you need to complete a goal with, you have to end your run just to change it instead of the game dynamically changing a trick for you. Spine transfers barely work at all either. You can do 2 double tap tricks in a row really fast and the game only plays 1 animation. The new soundtrack is god-awful, and the worst crime of all, the game is just so goddamn boring. Do you remember back at the beginning of the video when I kept saying I enjoyed my first playthrough? That wasn't a typo or a stutter that I keep in one of my videos because I'm terrible at speaking and I think it's funny. No, that was genuine. After completing Tony Hawk 3's career, I moved on to 4 and it was just the most boring experience I've had in this year of gaming so far. It just wasn't fun. I was doing a solo tour career of Rodney Mullen in Pro Skater 3 and I was bored halfway through. This game somehow made Pro Skater 3 boring. Maybe they shouldn't have added new shitty goals to Pro Skater 3's levels, or maybe they should have just kept Pro Skater 4 the way it was because why the fuck would you change that? And besides all the AI slop, I feel like this is the biggest reason why no one should play this game at all.
If it's not fun, why bother?
We shouldn't bother with something that's boring. We shouldn't bother with the bare minimum. We shouldn't bother with AI slop. We shouldn't bother with a remake that removes content in a game that claims to be a faithful recreation. And we shouldn't bother with anything made by these hacks. Now usually this is the part of the video where I would say, well, this game sucks, Activision is to blame, my name is Burbussy, blah 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 blah. But I'm not going to do that this time. While yes, Activision is a absolutely terrible company that no one should like, everyone already knows that. What else is there to say? But what about Iron Galaxy? What can they say about themselves? They're the ones that developed the game after all. In fact, speaking of developers, I wonder how they got such talented devs for their games in the first place.
Yeah, and wait. Yeah, to wrap it up, I was gonna say Iron Galaxy does a really good job of giving people a chance. So apply with this if you don't have experience. A lot of us came with no actual formal experience.
Yep, that checks out. Anywho, I think I've rambled on long enough about a skateboarding video game, so my final thought is this. Please do not buy this game. Instead, play Rethawed. Seriously, go play Rethawed. In this AAA game made by a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you can't even wear glasses, but in a game made by a small group of devs, you can wear glasses, wear backpacks, play almost every level from every game made by Neversoft, scale your character to make any abomination you can think of, change the physics in any of the Tony Hawk games, change the HUD to any of the Tony Hawk games, import custom soundtracks, import custom deck graphics so you can commission your friend to make one for you so he can feed their family, play various amounts of online game modes with your friends and family, import custom characters, earn achievements, and play as almost every character ever featured in any Tony Hawk game all combined into one package. But Burbus, I can play as Doomguy if I spend an extra 20 quid. You can do that in Rethawed for free. And play as all the Ninja Turtles, not just Michelangelo. If you want to play a game that actually cares about the legacy of these older games, then you can download Rethawed for free right now and get a much better experience than whatever the fuck 3+4 is. So please, support the people who actually know what they're doing and go play Rethawed. You will not be disappointed. But Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 will disappoint you. Do not buy this game under any circumstances. It's not worth $50, $70, or whatever the sale price will be once Activision realizes this game was a failure and will try giving it out for basically free. Use that money for something that is much more worthy and valuable of your time. Buy anything that is not this game. Buy Ready or Not, buy Palworld, buy Deltarune, hell, buy 5 copies of Fallout New Vegas to give to your friends. Literally anything. And yes, you can even buy Big Rigs on Steam. I'm giving you my permission, but just this once. If you also want to buy another skateboarding game, you can also check out Cheapskate. It's a skateboarding game developed by ex-Neversoft employees, so it's the closest thing we'll ever get to another Tony Hawk game. Well, not really, but you know. Please check it out. Support these old Neversoft devs. The game is only $5 for a reason. Go on, buy it. I know you're looking at it on the Steam page right now. Just do it. Or fuck it, just donate that money to me. Support me on my Ko-fi page so I can keep making these videos. But even if you can't donate or even just plain don't want to, sharing my videos and doing what the old YouTube algorithm likes is good enough for me. The support I've received on these videos has been amazing, and I can't thank you all enough for it. I was even in Jack's Films weekly newsletter about up-and-coming creators, so thanks, Jack. Once again, thank you all so much for your support. It means the world to me. But it's currently 2 a.m. when I'm writing this part of the script, and I need to get some sleep right now, otherwise I'll look like that one guy from the San Francisco cutscene. So with all this being said, my name is Burbus, and thank you for watching. 15 years. It's been 15 years since Skate 3 came out, and in the span of all that time, I've graduated middle school, high school, got a job, started making videos, got laid. A lot of things can happen in 15 years, and honestly, seeing a new Skate game releasing this year was definitely not one of those things I could have predicted to happen. I've been closely following the development of this game since it was first announced back in 2020 at EA Play, and since then I've watched every dev video, seen leaked footage, and was foaming at the mouth for the release of this game. The Skate franchise holds a special place in my heart, right next to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and if I'm being honest, I think out of all the games I've played in my life, there's a good chance that Skate 3 alone is my most played video game of all time. I've already made a video on Skate 3, and if you haven't seen that video yet, then you should definitely watch it after this one. But I'm not going to give a long, convoluted intro for this one. You saw the title and thumbnail, and I'm going to keep it real with you guys. Skate isn't very good. Oh wow, 2 bad skateboarding games released within the span of 2 months. Who would have thunk? Just like Tony Hawk 3+4, I really did want this game to be incredible, and to be fair, this new Skate game is way better than 3+4, but honestly that's a pretty low bar to cross considering how much of a shit show that game is. Skate 4, and I will continue to call it that for the rest of the video, is one of the most bland video games that I've played in a while. What had so much potential to be one of the best skateboarding games released this past decade has turned into another victim of greed, downgrading, and the Fortnite-ification of video games. Now, I don't want this video to be a whole video game bad now, but back in my day, video game was good. Video, because there's enough of those kinds of bullshit videos on this website that you can watch, and despite what I'm going to actually say in this video, I kinda like this game. Sure, it's a complete downgrade compared to even Skate 1 in some aspects, but all in all, the game is fun. But just because something is fun doesn't necessarily mean that it's good, and I don't want to shit on anyone's parade here. If you're enjoying this game, then that's great, but I still want to tell you my opinion on why I don't particularly like this game. I mean, that's why you clicked on this video after all. So let's do that now, shall we? Now, I know I said I wasn't going to do a convoluted intro to this one like 20 seconds ago, but I at least think it's important to tell you my history with the series as quickly as I possibly can. Skate 3 was the first game I played in the series back in 2013 when I got it for my birthday, and let me tell you, ever since that fateful day, I have been no joke playing this game on and off for the past 12 years, and in that period, I worked my way backwards in the series and played Skate 2, and then Skate 1, and absolutely fell in love with all of them.
You earned a bronze medal!
While objectively Skate 2 is probably the best in the series, and Skate 1 is just kinda there, I will forever die on the hill that Skate 3 is a masterpiece in almost every category. So when I saw a new Skate game was in development back in 2020, I can confidently say I looked like this guy. But the day has finally come. September 16th, 2025, Skate 4 has been released as a free-to-play early access game. Okay, we're not really off to the best start here, but this game has been in development for like 5 years. There must be a lot of content and features to satisfy us Skate fans, right? Right? Now, 5 years is a long time for developing a game. Hell, the first Skate game was developed in the span of around 2 years. So what kind of content and challenges can you do in this game? Well, I'm glad you asked, gamers, because you want to know what you do in this game 99% of the time? You do the same 4 challenge types over and over and over and over and over again until you get bored and fucking quit. You have line challenges, stunt challenges, session challenges, and own the spots that aren't actually own the spots. That is all. There's no games of Skate to play, 1-up, contests, photo or video challenges, death races, own the lots, pro challenges. Nothing. Now, you do get stunt challenges, but it feels like a cheap knockoff of the Hall of Meat challenges in Skate 3 because there's no Thrasher or Hall of Meat branding anywhere. You can't see any bones you've broken in real time or even get a rundown of the bones you've broken with a score. You just fall down in rigor mortis with no flair or personality at all. Now, to be fair, Hall of Meat has always been the weakest kind of challenges in my opinion. Not saying that they're bad, far from it, but I do prefer the actual skateboarding in the game, seeing how this is, you know, a skateboarding video game, but it's still a shame that it's just neutered and downgraded like this, which is really fucking funny because in every single piece of marketing that EA shits out, they like to say that this game is an evolution of the franchise. I want you to keep these words in mind for the rest of the video because calling this game an evolution is like calling Madden the pinnacle of video games. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room that I'm sure you spotted as soon as you clicked on this video. The art style. It's very bad. Now, I would say I have no idea what they were thinking making it look like a video game that a parent would let their kids play on the Xbox while they smoke meth in their Lazy Boy. But that's actually exactly why they made it look like this. The first 3 Skate games were, you guessed it, skateboarding games for skateboarders, and it shows in its art style. The art style was gritty, realistic, and fit the game and skateboarding culture perfectly. But Skate 4 doesn't have that. It feels soulless, corporate, and uninspired. EA wants this game to be made for everyone, so in turn it needs to look and play like Fortnite, otherwise the kiddies ain't gonna play it and use their mom's credit card for skate points, even though that's never what the Skate franchise was trying to do. It just wanted to be a simulation skateboard game with its own ideas and passion. Hell, the reason why we still talk about these games today is because they were good and were genuinely made with care. But seeing the art style in the game look like this is already a turnoff for most people, including myself, because if a game looks soulless, then 99% of the time it is soulless, especially if previous games in the franchise looked just fine and didn't need changing at all. Now, I'm sure some of you might be thinking, well, bussy, just because it looks like ass doesn't mean it plays like ass too. And to that I'd say, I mean, yeah, you're kind of right. Really, the only upside of this game for me is the skating itself. I mean, the game is called Skate for a reason, so I expect the skating to be fun. The flick it system in this game is genuinely an improvement in Skate 4, and I had a lot of fun playing with it. I'll be honest, when I first played the game, I thought it was terrible because of how janky the tricks looked. But then I realized that I was actually doing the fast version of these tricks. The devs actually added faster and slower versions of each trick so that you can freely choose between by flicking the stick slower or faster depending on what trick you're doing. It's an incredible change that adds to the realism factor a lot. It also adds to the realism factor with how incredible the sound design is. I'd honestly go as far to say that it's as good, if not better, than Skate 3's. The sounds while skating sound so clean and crisp, and I absolutely love it. Like, take a listen for yourself. Now, the skating and sound effects are really good, but in order for the game to be complete, we're gonna need some missions to use our skating skills in. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video that there's only 4 challenge types, and while those get boring incredibly quickly, maybe the actual story missions are better. Now, let's go back to the previous skate games to get a grasp on what might be in this evolution of the franchise. The missions in these older games are full of charm and are really fun to play. Most of the time. And to add on to this, the missions you do actually serve a point in the game itself. In Skate 1, you're trying to work your way up the ranks in the skate world to eventually get on the cover of Thrasher and become an icon. In Skate 2, you're trying to redeem yourself after going to prison and proving that you still got it in you after serving your time. And in Skate 3, you're starting your own board company and completing challenges to eventually reach 1 million board sales. All 3 of these games give you an excuse to skateboard in a digital world while also being not too far-fetched from what the story of real skateboarders have to go through as well. And the missions that you give you an even bigger incentive to complete the story and prove yourself due to how challenging and fun they are. These missions are full of rich and fulfilling gameplay moments like competing in real skate competitions like Goofy vs. Regular and the fucking X Games, or even doing photo and video challenges all over the map. Like, we all remember Sign of the Grinds and Dozer Grind from Skate 3 because of how hard they were to complete and how fulfilling they were once we did. Not to mention how unique each challenge is compared to one another in each game. But what kind of missions are there in Skate 4? Surely the story will be great, right? Well, you want to know what you do in all these missions and what the end goal is? Tutorials! No, I'm not kidding you. The entire gameplay formula is just tutorials and telling you how to play the game you most likely already know how to play in the first place, and all the missions feel the exact same with no variety. You're either following some blue line across the map telling you where to go, collecting random shit like we're playing fucking Tony Hawk, or just doing tricks the game tells you to do. And honestly, it wouldn't even be the worst thing in the world if you weren't getting talked to like you're 4 years old by your AI companion V.
There it is, your very own board. Your key to the city. The most important tool for your time in San Van. Blasting airs feels good, doesn't it? At least, that's what my research indicates. Wavy rides are the best. Gator tour is complete. I cannot believe how much you have shown me. Victim, friend found.
I am not kidding you when I say that this is the worst character I have ever had to listen to in any video game. She sounds so fucking corporate and fake, and to make matters worse, every character talks to you like this.
Flop down the kicker in the right spot when you're ready. Records are made to be broken.
Might be wondering if you've been here before. You have. Sweet. Congratulations on your upgraded rip.
Next leg of the tour is about advanced flip tricks.
Make it stop, please. Just make it stop. I don't want to do this. Stop. Just stop. Now, I know this word gets used a lot on the internet, but there's no other way to describe it. This is cringe. Stop it. Get some help. Do you remember back in Skate 1 and 2 where Retta would give some of his commentary as he skated around? Sure, most people found him annoying, and it's fine to have that opinion, but I would much rather take this...
Aye! Hella fast! Yo, there's a qualifier to get into the King of the Mountain races? You definitely gotta check that out. Oh, you wanna go this route and just jump right into it? Alright, let's see what you got.
Over this. And it also sucks too because there's no pro skaters here at all. There's no actual attachment here to pro skating. It feels like a joke. You do get returning characters in Slappy and Shingo, but they're completely different from how they were and act in the previous games, making them feel like nothing but a shitty attempt at fan service. But enough about the characters. Who even needs them? This is a skate game, and what's a skate game without a fun world to skate around in? In Skate 1 and 2, you had San Vanalona, a combination of San Francisco, Vancouver, and Barcelona. Shout out to all the 75 people who watch my videos from Spain. And in Skate 3, you skated in Port Carverton. All 3 of the game worlds feel like a real place you'd see people skating and living their lives in. There's hills to ride down, unique structures around the city to grind, and secrets to find around every corner. Each part of the world in each game feels incredibly unique with different types of areas to see and explore. In Skate 1, you have the Community Center, Art Gallery, Old Town, and Regs. In Skate 2, you have Cougar Mountain, the Boneyard, GED High, and Matrix Plaza. And in Skate 3, you have Park and Play, the Dam, the Quarry, Hartley Stadium, and of course the ever-iconic Megapark. So what does Skate 4 have to offer in its map? Surely after 5 years the team could have cooked up something incredible, right? Well, in Skate 4 you don't have any dams, megaparks, or mountains, but you do have a city, and more city, and more city, and more city. Yeah, this map is fucking dog shit and bland. The only thing to skate in San Vansterdam, very creative with the name by the way, is a city. and nothing else. There's no massive hills to ride down, no dams, spillways, mega parks, interesting plazas, or anything that isn't just something you'd find in a normal city. And yeah, sure, Skate 1's map was also just a city, but it actually had variety with suburbs, parks, and hills to skate around in. In Skate 4, the world feels flat, boring, and bland, and the art style doesn't help its case either. The map has 4 districts, but every location just blends into one another, and it feels like the exact same place you already just skated in. There were really only 2 locations that even stood out to me, that being the Orb and that one ocean-themed skate park I already forgot the name of. There's barely any interaction you can do with the world either. You can't move objects already in the game world or delete them to make a spot better, and the online aspect of the world feels half-baked and barely even exists at all. I forgot to mention this, but the game is always online, and the other people skating around are other players. On paper, this sounds like a great idea, and honestly, it is a great idea. It's just too bad EA doesn't know what to do with it. There's basically 0 to no interaction you can do with other players in the world. There's no voice chat, text chat, or any form of communication other than these Club Penguin-ass pre-written responses and emojis. You can join parties, but there's barely any reason to do this at all except for playing co-op challenges, which is not as exciting as it sounds, might I add. And when another player is doing a challenge, they won't even be able to see the other players in the world. A way too late sequel to a skateboarding game with phoned-in online mechanics that don't benefit the game at all. Where have I heard that one before? Oh yeah, and with this game being always online, it comes with all those beautiful benefits. You can't play offline at all, even though the game doesn't even justify itself being always online in the first place. If you don't have a consistent internet connection for even a millisecond, the game will kick you, and my personal favorite feature is wait queues that can go up to a fucking hour.
Oh, I'm gonna queue now. 926,000 position?
What?
1 hour wait time.
Yeah, how dare you try and play our game without express consent from our technician, Jerry. Like, I want you to imagine for a second you're trying to play Skate 3 and the game forced you to wait for an hour before you could even play. People would riot, but because this is a free-to-play early access game, we just gotta leave the multi-billion-dollar company alone. Well, let me tell you a little secret from EA in the back corner over there. I actually know why this game is always online. It's not because of some grand vision or any good game design reason. It's actually for the microtransactions, baby! Do you want to spend $5 on a pair of shoes you could get for free in the older games? Do you like spending $50 on some shirts reminding you of some better games you could be playing? Do you also love grinding for 20 hours just getting some black sweatpants that incentivize you just to buy them in the store? Then Skate 4 is for you, god damn it. This is actually disgusting. The gall that these fuckers have to charge for the amount of money they do for the stupidest cosmetics, and even cosmetics that you got for free by playing the older games. The only free rewards you get for playing challenges are rip chips, as the game calls them. You earn a pitiful amount after each challenge, and the only way to get cosmetics you actually want is by using your rip chips to open fucking loot boxes. That's right, baby, this shit show couldn't get any worse. Thankfully, there's no paid loot boxes, but let me explain to you why this is still a terrible goddamn game design decision. If you want, let's say, these black sweatpants, you gotta gamble just to get them. Now, in order to even gamble for the chance at getting the black sweatpants that you want, you're gonna have to grind for hours on end to level up your rep in the district. How do you level up your rep? By completing challenges in that district, of course, but there's only so many challenges per day, so if you complete them all and still don't have a high enough level, then fuck you, dumbass, come back tomorrow, I guess. And when you do inevitably come back to get those pants, you still gotta gamble just to get them, turning what used to be something you could have done within the first 2 minutes in the older skate games to a process that's gonna take you about 2 hours plus 2 days if you're lucky. Now, reminder, I had to do all of this just to get some black pants in Skate 4, but in Skate 2, all I had to do was this. Look at that evolution, my guys. Can you smell it all in the air? Doesn't it smell so beautiful, like green money? Or, you know, you could just, you could just buy the pants in the shop with real money. This right here is why the game was made. This game wasn't made for fans of skate or skateboarding as a whole. It was made for gullible adults and the 7-year-olds who watched Skate 3 Funny Moments videos growing up. And as we all know, kids and gullible adults purchasing microtransactions in games make a metric fuck ton of money. Skate 4 is something that everyone has been wishing for forever, and now in 2025, EA thinks it's the perfect time to release this soulless skateboarding-themed Fortnite clone. Also, the children who grew up only playing and were watching Skate 3 videos can play and be exploited by this game. Call it a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory from me all you want, but let's be honest here. If a game is free to play, looks like this, has characters that talk to you like a child, and has stupid microtransaction skins like this is where you've lost all the sensible adults playing your game and you've sold out to the Fortnite crowd. Most adults don't want to play a game that looks as sanitized and safe as Skate 4 does because it doesn't relate to them or anyone in any way. And no, I'm not saying that games with cartoony art styles are automatically bad and made for kids. There are some incredible games out there with these kinds of art styles, but the difference between any other cartoony game and Skate 4 is that the Skate franchise has been grounding itself in realism for 3 entries. But then 15 years later, a half-baked husk of its former self comes out and ends up looking like Fortnite. That's not only where you lose me, but most of the people playing your game in the first place. Plus, most games that look cartoony still treat their players like adults, which you can't say for Skate 4 because this game treats you like a 4-year-old who hasn't developed object permanence yet. Now let's take a step back for a second and remember the whole point of this video. You remember how near the beginning of it, how I told you to keep the word evolution in your head? Of course you do, you're a smart person, in fact smarter than me. Now when something is like an evolution, you expect it to be better, right? Like you expect it to have everything that the previous thing had, plus new things to make it better, right? Well, let me tell you all another dirty little secret that EA doesn't want you to know. Skate 4 is not an evolution of the franchise. In fact, it has more similarities to a baby Pokemon, if anything. So you're telling me that Skate 2 released in 2009 and had sketching on cars, hand plant variations, finger flips, keyframes in the replay editor, and a year later in Skate 3 we had dark slides and underflips? Well, in Skate 4, none of that exists. Yeah, you heard me right. This quote-unquote evolution of the franchise doesn't even have features from the previous games in the series. But Burbis, they're gonna add all these things in an update next year. Yeah, sorry buddy, but if I have to wait a year just to get basic features that even the first game had, that's when I can confidently say that this game is just a fucking sham designed to make money from gullible children and isn't worth anyone's time. Sure, I know, a year down the line they may add dark slides, keyframes, sketching, and more emotes that cost $7. But I'm not gonna sit and wait for this game to be eventually finished someday in the future to figure out that. You can cry and shout that your game is in early access and unfinished all you want, but if it doesn't have any worthwhile content at launch, then I'm not gonna waste my time playing it. Even other games that were or still are in early access have way more features and content than Skate 4 at release. EA is using the early access and free-to-play live service models because they don't actually believe in this project enough to give it the time and money it needs for a full release in an actual game, let alone a sequel to Skate 3. And honestly, that's just kind of really sad. EA has a track record of just shutting things down if they don't work, and Skate 4 is just eventually going to be another victim of this. We've been waiting for this game for the past 15 years, and instead of getting Skate 4, we got a game that feels more like a shitty 18-year too late reboot of Skate 1. And there you have it. Don't bother playing this game because it's not worth your time. Even if its skating is solid, you already have 3 other games in the franchise you could play instead of this one, because the other Skate games actually care about your time as a player and are feature-rich with content. I understand that most of us who've played all these games will continue to be hungry for more actual Skate games, but if you've never played Skate 1, 2, or even 3, I highly recommend you just buy those games instead of wasting your time with this free-to-play asswipe of a product. Sure, this brand new Skate game may be free to play and you may not have the money to purchase one of the older ones, but trust me when I say that in the long run you'll most likely end up spending some money on this game, and when the servers eventually shut down, then that money is just going to go down the drain with it with this game. Or you could just spend $20 on a game that you'll most likely enjoy more, and you can, guess what, holy shit, play it offline and keep it forever? What a fucking revolution this is. There's also other ways of playing these games for free, but I don't know how you would do that, actually. Or hell, if you're like me and you've already played this series for God knows how long, 2025 has been an incredible year for gaming, and there are plenty of games you can experience right now that'll more than satisfy your gamer gene. And with all this being said, my name is Burbis, and thank you for watching. I love Pokemon. But I also hate Pokemon. This game franchise has played a pivotal role in my life, and if you saw my Fire Red video, you'll know that I have a pretty outspoken love-hate relationship with this franchise. On one hand, Pokemon has provided me with hundreds, if not thousands of hours of strategic gameplay, great characters, amazing exploration, and music that's worth playing at your funeral. But on the other hand, this series has provided me with slow, tedious dialogue, unskippable cutscenes, hand-holding me like a dumbass child, and waiting after waiting after waiting after waiting for shit to happen. These games have never been perfect, but even after all the questionable game design decisions, I can confidently say that most of these games are really good once you get past all the baggage. And trust me, there is a lot of baggage in these games. So when I saw that Pokemon Legends ZA was announced, I can confidently say I was excited to see what Game Freak would come up with next, especially after the disastrous launch of Scarlet and Violet. I don't ever try to go into video games instantly hating them because first off, that's not really a healthy way to live your life. And secondly, even if a developer fumbles a couple of games, that doesn't mean that every project they make is instantly trash and not worth playing. Now you may be wondering why I'm even mentioning this in the first place. Well, it's because people really do not like this game. There's so much discourse surrounding this game from either people who have only ever seen the trailers and saying to themselves, wow, the windows are just flat textures, instant 0 out of 10, or people who've played the game for an hour and turn it off before the actual fun begins. But let's be honest with ourselves here. This game is not so bad that it makes me want to merge without looking, or so good that it made me reconsider how I see video games as a whole. There were parts I loved, parts I thought could have been done better, and parts that are genuinely bad, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Instead of making a video saying this is the worst thing I've ever played and getting a billion views for it, or making a video saying I loved it and getting bullied from people who don't go outside that often, this video will just be an honest look at Pokemon Legends ZA because that's what you clicked on to see. At least I hope. Now I do want to mention one thing before the video officially starts. If you've been on the internet for a while, you may have seen a massive hate boner for Nintendo and everything they do, and Game Freak is being lumped into it, with people saying that they're lazy and can do better and blah blah blah, and while I do understand that and even somewhat agree with the sentiment that Game Freak could quote-unquote do better with the Pokemon games, I feel like it's incredibly important to separate the art from the artist here. The artist in question being Game Freak, who also just so happens to be puppeteered by 3 massive Japanese gaming conglomerates that do some anti-consumer business practices every now and again, all in the name of protecting Pokemon, so in turn, those shitty business practices get passed down onto Game Freak when they have almost nothing to do with it. I guarantee you that almost every developer at Game Freak just wants to make the best game they possibly can. It's just the higher-ups that are slashing their budgets, forcing the devs to crunch, and not giving them the time and day they need to make something they truly want. According to this Eurogamer article you should check out, the budget for Legends ZA was around $13 million, which, if you know AAA gaming, you know is pretty pitiful. I mean, Call of Duty, spends $1 billion every year just to make their shitty video games. I don't know whether we should blame the higher-ups at Game Freak, or the higher-ups at the Pokemon Company, or the higher-ups at Creatures Inc., or the higher-ups at Nintendo, or the higher-ups at the entire Japanese government, but someone or something along the food chain here is to blame for these lackluster budgets and short development time, which in turn give the Pokemon games a bad rap in this modern age of gaming. Now, that's not to say that Game Freak is entirely blameless in everything here. There are definitely bad game design decisions in this game that fall on them, and I'll get to that later. But I feel like instead of judging a game on what it could be before you've even given it a chance, you could instead, play the game. And if you don't like it, that's fine. And if you loved it, that's fine too. I want this video to be more of a healthy discussion in the chat between people while I give my unfiltered opinions, rather than me being some grifter telling you that you're a horrible human being for spending $70 on a kid's game. But enough with the exposition. I played this game for almost 50 hours and have over 120 gigabytes of footage on my computer, so absolutely fucking annihilate that subscribe button so I can pay rent. Now, when you first launch the game and hit that start button, you're gonna watch a quick cutscene that explains the plot, make your character, which has a lot of new and cool options for customization, might I add. Look at Kalos through the window of a train, get off the train, and bingo bango bongo, welcome to Lumio City. It's a fine enough opening, but yet again, Game Freak just doing what they love doing best, refuses to let the player figure out what they're supposed to do and holds their hand through the entirety of the first hour of the game. If you had any thoughts of figuring things out on your own, then the first main friend, not rival, they barely qualifies that, of the game has other motives in mind. Now, Tawny or Yubane, depending on what sex you choose, isn't really a bad character, but this opening sequence is going to turn off a lot of players because they're constantly like, okay, let's escape from this battle zone, follow me. No, not that way, dumbass. Alright, let's go to the brand new and exciting Wild Zone. Okay, now let me talk your ear off about it. I get that the game needs to teach you about this stuff one way or another, but instead of doing the classic Pokemon thing of having the character explain to you the thing you most likely already know, give them a pop-up Breath of the Wild style and let them use that info to their own liking, which the game literally already does anyways after characters explain stuff to you anyway, so what the fuck is the point of even having them explain it to you in the first place? Not only would this speed up the pacing, but it'll also make the first hour feel less like a slog and actually give a better impression of the first character you meet and the game as a whole. But after the first hour is finally over, the game picks up and you're free to go wherever you want in the city, so really it's not a huge deal. So if it's not a huge deal, then why did I waste my breath talking about it? Well, first off, this is my video and I make my own rules. But secondly, I feel like if any game starts like this, then it's a very poor game design decision, especially if a game is open world. Imagine for a second you're playing Breath of the Wild, and as soon as you leave the Shrine of Resurrection, the old man goes, "Oi there, mate, I don't think he's British, we're just gonna roll with that. Follow me and I'll show you around the area." And for the next hour, he slowly guides Link to every shrine in the Great Plateau and teaches him how to swing a sword, use Vashika's Slate, use a bow, and play fucking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Not only would this suck, but it would also turn off a lot of people from the game entirely, even if the game is a masterpiece. But Breath of the Wild respects the player's intelligence, so it doesn't bother wasting your time with filler bullshit. It just throws you into the world, and I find that so much more engaging than slow time wasters designed to only be tutorials and nothing else. As I said in my Fire Red video, which, Jesus Christ, I just realized this has been a problem for over 20 years, the best types of tutorials in games are the ones where you don't even realize there's a tutorial there at all and just start playing, figuring the game out as things go along with trial and error. Sure, you may figure things out slowly, get angry, or not fully understand what the game wants from you, or all of the above if you're like me, but if the game has fully worked its magic on you, then all the trial and error will lead to a moment where your brain clicks, and you understand, which feels incredibly satisfying. It's a reason why games like Breath of the Wild, Dishonored, Deus Ex, and Fallout New Vegas are some of the best games ever made. They don't waste your time with filler and just put you into the world. But Legend ZA makes the exact same mistake that every Pokemon game has made since the 2010s, which is really frustrating to see. You just looked at this freaking metropolis of a city through the window of a train and you should be able to explore it right away. But Game Freak says, no, you must follow our rules if you want to see the whole city. Which sucks, because the gameplay, characters, and overall city of Luminos in this game are genuinely really good, and I loved playing the game after the first hour and a half. But I won't lie to you, before I got past that first hour, I was genuinely thinking of turning the game off because of how boring it was. But after just sticking through it because I was gonna make a video on this game one way or another, I discovered that, wow, this game is actually pretty fun. After the slog that's the first hour, you're finally given free reign to roam around the city to your heart's content. There's Pokemon to catch in the wild zones, people to talk to, side quests to complete, and secrets along the rooftops that are waiting to explore. Speaking of the wild zones, they're a major part of how you capture Pokemon in this game. Now, usually in any other Pokemon game, you capture Pokemon in the wilderness, but because all you have to explore in this game is Lumio City, the game needs some way to let you capture wild Pokemon. So in turn, we get the wild zones. Now, realistically speaking, something like this in a city would make absolutely no sense, and I'll get to that later, but gameplay-wise, these wild zones are executed really well. Each zone feels very different from one another, not just because they have different Pokemon in them, but because the layout and geometry of each one is very diverse from one another. Some are flat with water, some require you to get on rooftops, and some are filled with Pokemon that will absolutely destroy you. Fuck Wild Zone 17. All my homies hate Wild Zone 17. I only came here for my boy Skarmory and nothing else. Throughout the story, you unlock more wild zones, turning an area that used to be normal into a Pokemon utopia, and it's incredibly satisfying to see the world change as the game continues. Everything you do in the game, whether it be catching a Pokemon, battling trainers, and completing story missions, all add onto the world, and it feels like I'm actually doing things to warrant change like this. And another thing to go alongside with the wild zones is the battle zones. They only appear at night, and they're the main way you're going to be battling trainers in the game. They're placed at predetermined points in the city, and I really like the idea of having a battle mode that only appears during the night. One of my personal biggest issues with Pokemon games was the random encounters with NPCs. They're not all bad, don't kill me yet. In fact, they can be really fun at some points, especially when the actual level design complements it really well. But I feel like I'm not alone here when I say that they can be really annoying at times when you're just walking around trying to get to the next area and some jackass kid jump scares you to tell you about his really cool and swag girlfriend. So in turn, Legend ZA lets you explore the city at all times during the day without having to worry about a child trying to square up with you in the street, but at night you're given the choice to enter the battle zones if you'd like, and I think that's a great change to make. It still lets the people who love the battling and random encounters battle all the time if they'd like, while also only making it mandatory to progress the story for players who could care less about it. The battle zones are done pretty well too. Each one uses different types of areas from the city, like taking the more maze-like parts of it and turning those into battle zones, as well as they use locations with rooftops, wide plazas, and even areas with all the above. There's also always multiple zones active at once, so if you don't like the one you're currently in, you can always just go to another. Now, the actual battling you do here is a bit jank at some points, and I'll get to that later, trust me. But overall, it makes a place as small as Lumio City feel bigger than it actually is, and there was always fun battling trainers in these zones as the game continued on. And speaking of Lumio City, while it is the smallest map in a mainline Pokemon game we've seen so far, so small in fact that you can literally walk from one side of the map to the other in less than 2 minutes, which Jesus Christ. But what it lacks in the amount of horizontal space in the world, it makes up for it with the amount of verticality in it. Now, I know I'm going to sound like Todd Howard here when I say this, but 99% of the time, if you see a building in this game, chances are you can get on top of it. Exploring the rooftops in this game is genuinely exciting, and I love trying to find new ways to get on top of them. And when you get up there, it's not like there's just nothing to see and it's just filler. No, there's rare items and Pokemon that can only be found up here, so it makes exploration feel really rewarding. Later in the game, you also unlock the Rotoglide, which allows for even more traversability in the world and can create some unique encounters with Pokemon as well. While the Rotoglide isn't the best thing ever, I mean, you ain't getting MJ level hops with this thing, but it still creates an amount of non-linear exploration that's incredibly welcome in this series and should be a staple feature in the future games. Now, another feature that should be fucking mandatory in every Pokemon game from here on out is all the amazing quality of life improvements Game Freak made in this game. Do you remember how stupidly tedious Pokemon battles could be in the older games? As much as I love them, I'm not oblivious to the fact that they play incredibly slow and tedious at points. Every single time anything would happen in a battle, whether it be a status effect or an effect from an attack, a full-on text prompt would pop up announcing itself like a Discord at everyone ping. Not to mention how annoying catching a specific Pokemon can be in a game that's entirely designed around that feature. But all that slow, boring, tedious shit, get it out of here. Now catching Pokemon is as simple as step 1, seeing the Pokemon, and step 2, catching the Pokemon. And not only can you access the Pokemon boxes in the main menu at any time, nicknaming a Pokemon, evolving them, and even changing their moves are now all just in the main menu for you to access at any time. This gives you so much freedom as to how you want your party to be, and it's the best thing Game Freak did in this game. Simple changes like these vastly improve the amount of replayability and player choice because being able to change moves at any time is a huge incentive to promote experimentation within the player and is incredibly welcome to have here. And when you finish editing your team and are ready to battle, the best gift that Game Freak could have ever given us. All combat status effects are now shown on the right side of the screen as scrolling text and no longer interrupt combat. We did it, fellas. The biggest issue with Pokemon's combat has finally been fixed. It only took 30 years. You're welcome. The combat system in this game is no joke, no exaggeration, the best combat system in any mainline Pokemon game, period. In Legends ZA, the combat went from the standard turn-based formula we're all sick of at this point to a pseudo free-for-all style that's incredibly fun to play with. Technically, the combat is still turn-based, but it's greatly improved by the fact that everything is in real time and there's no breaks between attacks anymore. This one change greatly improves everything because since there's no longer breaks between attacks, it requires you to constantly be aware of what can happen next. In the older games, personally, one of the best parts of the combat to me was how tense it was. You never knew what was coming next, and it was also greatly exaggerated by the fact that you could spend minutes planning your next attack. But in ZA, the combat is now even more tense because since you no longer get a break between moves and combat, it makes battles feel way more engaging where you have to constantly pay attention to your surroundings and make quick decisions. It's genius, honestly. As well as Game Freak made another great decision with the combat to speed it up as well. Remember, PowerPoints or PP if you're gay like me? Get them out of here. Instead, attacks are now put on a cooldown, and the cooldowns themselves are balanced really well. Power attacks like Hyper Beam and more passive moves like Bulk Up have longer timers to balance out the other attacks and moves that are more basic. As well as since moves are now on a timer, you'll never be stuck in an infinite loop of stat game moves to the point where the battle goes on forever. I'm really surprised by how good the combat is in this game. It actually feels like an evolution of the franchise and not some random filler bullshit Game Freak would slap into the combat like how they did in the older games. But with this being the first time for this type of combat system, it has some jank to come along with it. Now, due to how open the combat system is and works in this game, your Pokemon have to move to predetermined locations in order to attack. Let's say you're trying to sneak up behind another Pokemon or trainer to get the jump on them. You activate the move you want to do, wait for the animation to play out, and miss the Pokemon entirely because your move decided to hit a wall. Or my personal favorite being the times where your Pokemon just gets stuck in the geometry, forcing you to switch them out for another Pokemon. It's not bad enough to get me to stop playing. In fact, it was really funny most of the time, but it's still worth mentioning as a fault because I doubt that this was meant to happen. Now, these problems don't apply to the boss fights in the game, and yes, this is my really cool segue to the boss fights. Please subscribe. The boss fights in this game are just okay. They're really nothing special in my opinion. They're just a mega evolved Pokemon you have to take out with way too much HP, and they're the most spongy enemies I've ever seen in a Pokemon game. At least the attack patterns are unique for each Pokemon you fight, so I'll give credit where credit is due here. But even if they don't have the jank I mentioned before, they still kind of feel pretty janky given how spongy the enemies are. I don't know, take that with what you will. And don't even get me started on the stealth in this game, and I'm putting the word stealth in like heavy quotation marks here because it's genuinely one of the most bare-bones stealth mechanics in any game I've I've ever played. Not only is there no way to distract enemies other than standing in their peripheral vision and just walking back, but the game likes to follow the rules of Far Cry 3, where as long as you're not right in front of them and crouched down, you'll never be seen or heard of no matter what, like you're the spy from TF2. I know this isn't anything close to a stealth game, and I never expect a Pokemon game to have stealth, but if you're gonna have a stealth mechanic in your game, at least make it not so easy and predictable. Or hell, at least make the detection meter make some goddamn sense. This game also has a mechanic where if you get spotted too quickly, you and your Pokemon will be caught off guard and the enemy can get a free hit on you. Now this is actually a great idea. It encourages players to not just blast through the battle zones and observe their surroundings before engaging in a battle. However, sometimes you'll get spotted incredibly quickly and won't get caught off guard, but other times you'll give the opponent the equivalent of the 1,000-yard stare, but they'll still catch you off guard. Why? Well, I don't know, I guess your character just has massive tunnel vision. Now, crappy stealth mechanics aside, Legend ZA, like any other Pokemon game, has a lot of characters that you meet and talk to. I mentioned earlier in the video that you meet Tawny or Ubain at the beginning of the game, and putting aside the hand-holding there, just okay. I don't know, they just never really stuck out to me all that much, and if I'm being honest, that goes for like half the characters in this game. Oh wow, is that a busy businesswoman? Oh hey, is that a busy businessman? Oh shit, is that a Redditor? But ZA does have pretty good characters, and instead of listing every single one and telling you my exact thought on each of them, I'm just going to give you the highlights because otherwise this video would be way longer than it already is. Canary is one of my favorites. She's a complete stereotype of the standard gamer girl streamer, and the game portrays this incredibly well. When she loses, she doesn't just do the standard thing that every trainer does and go, yeah man, we might have lost that game, but we're still best friends in the end, partner. No, she has a full gamer rage meltdown with swear words, and I don't know what she's saying, or there might even be slurs in there, we don't know.
Fucking bro, come down, Snevic Hospitality, I'll come out my house, and I'll break your fucking legs!
She's also gathered such a massive fan base for herself that her fans call her Canatics. I can't decide whether that's the greatest thing of all time or the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And then you got,
Jacinthe.
First off, just look at her. But secondly, she's the most egotistical character in any Pokemon game I've ever seen. When you first meet her later in the game, she wants you to compete in her own battle tournaments. You then say to her, I got some better things to do right now. And as soon as you say that, she decides from this point on, it is her grand duty to fuck with you. For the next hour of the game, after every mission you do, she no shit teleports behind you just to tell you how important she is and how you need to get to her tournament ASAP. And when you leave Hotel Z to finally go to the tournament, she actually sends her assistant to trap you in a Jacinthe zone. You can't make this shit up, I love her. Of course, you also can't talk about Hotel Z without talking about the man himself, AZ. He's probably the best character in the entire game, and the one that I love talking to the most. After nearly every mission I did, I would always go back to Hotel Z just to see what he had to say. He talks very forward, professional, yet mysterious, and always has some form of wisdom to pass down onto the player, and it was always a treat to hear whatever he had to say. It also helps that he's 3,000 years old and 9 feet tall, so of course the man's gonna have some stuff to say about himself. Throughout the entire game, he always felt like a grandfather giving advice, and when he, spoiler alert, dies at the end of the game, I actually felt something, which I can't really say for most characters in a Pokemon game of all things. But without a doubt, my personal favorite character in the entire game, I know I just said AZ was the best, but you can just ignore that I said that, and probably just one of my favorite characters in all of Pokemon now is Corbo. This man is the greatest short king of all time, and I will not take any slander of him. Sorry, Steven Stone, but you have some real competition now. Before you even meet him, you're already hearing some pretty bad things about him, like how he's a loan shark and how he loaned Tawny or Ubain $100,000 and they haven't paid it back yet because why would they? They're most likely a child who has no money. And the interest of the loan has tenfolded to $1 million, which... yeah, Hotel Z is kind of fucked now. So we go and meet Corbo at the Rust Syndicate headquarters, which he also just so happens to be the leader of, and when we talk to him for the first time, he must have maxed out his charisma skill because he speaks very warm and friendly with a hint of intimidation. Even just looking at the way he sits down is completely different from every character in the game. This is a man from top to bottom that screams business, and it's absolutely incredible. When he gives you a task to quote-unquote get rid of some troublemakers to help pay off a debt, after everything you've heard about this guy, you're probably starting to think to yourself, alright now, is he gonna make me kill someone? But no, the troublemakers are just some Gengars in an abandoned apartment building you gotta get rid of, and every single task afterwards is just him using some vague wording to make it sound like you're about to do something shady, but the shady thing is just you cleaning out a sewer. And at the end of the game, when you need to get on top of a building, the ladder that's supposed to be there got destroyed by some Pokemon. And since everyone in the Syndicate will respect and follow him until his dying breath, he just tells them to create a human ladder because that's what a man with 10 charisma would come up with. I'm always a fan of characters in media that talk a lot of talk, but deep down they couldn't hurt a fly even if they wanted to, and Corbo falls under that line perfectly. Because after you beat him in the ZA Royale, he drops the act and respects you. He shows his true colors to you, which deep down is just a man who cares deeply about his people in the city, but uses his abrasiveness to get things done, which is incredibly cool to see in a Pokemon character. But after you climb the human ladder, he fucking dies. The end. Now, the characters in ZA are pretty good, if not great most of the time, but how does the story itself fare? Does it change the way how video game stories are told? No, of course not. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, except for Pokemon Black and White and like maybe Ruby and Sapphire, I haven't given a single fuck about any of the stories these games try to tell. The first 2 games in the series barely had a story at all, and then almost every single one afterwards has just been in one ear and out the other, and ZA was exactly the same for me. The story in this game tries to ask 2 questions, the first one being, what would happen if Pokemon started mega evolving against their will? And the second question being, what would happen if a massive corporation installed wild zones in the city so Pokemon and humans could live together? Now these concepts actually sound really interesting, right? Like what would happen if we just let a bunch of wild Pokemon into the city, and if Pokemon were evolving against their will? First I want to talk about the ladder of Rogue Mega Evolution, as the game calls it. Now as I mentioned earlier in the video, the game has boss fights where you have to take out or pacify or kill. Really, the game never actually explains what happens when they get defeated. And while these boss fights are just okay, the actual Mega Evolved Pokemon themselves are really cool and have a lot of variety between each of them. Mega Dragonite looks beautiful, Mega Zygarde looks like it came out of the fucking Deus Ex universe, and Mega Skarmory looks like this one meme that I can't get out of my head now, and I love it because of that reason alone. But not all the new Megas are as cool as these ones, though. You got Mega Scrafty, which just looks like a Tumblr user, Mega Chandelure, which just has more candles on it because I guess that's what Game Freak felt like doing. And then we have the one that's simultaneously the best yet also worst one, Mega Starmie. This is just Starmie with longer legs. Also, why does it look like Patrick now? But honestly, I'm okay with these more silly and goofy designs like Starmie and Chandelure, even if they are admittedly a bit lazy and only change a couple of things about the Pokemon. But back on topic with the whole Rogue Mega Evolution thing, hey guys, editing Burbus here. I decided to cut out this section of the video because it's completely pointless and it was just me not understanding the story at all, when in reality they actually explain a lot of the story, even though I thought they didn't. So instead of embarrassing myself, I'm just gonna put this section here and embarrass myself just a little less. So thank you very much. Back to you, video Burbus, you fucking dumbass. But secondly, this game has an issue of bringing up a lot of plot points that sound interesting or even are interesting, but you never actually get any say in what can happen in the story. Now, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't have even mentioned this fact because I never expect Pokemon games to have branching story paths or complex dialogue trees, but the geniuses over at Game Freak must have a fetish for the illusion of player choice because they will not stop using dialogue choices that have no meaning whatsoever in their games. Throughout the entire game, you get dialogue options that either don't change anything at all, are 2 versions of yes, Fallout 4 style, or even options that sound like they could lead to something, but the character you're talking to basically goes, yeah, that's not the right answer, buddy. Now, in any normal game with dialogue options like Deus Ex, Fallout New Vegas, dialogue options act like, you know, dialogue options. They exist to let the player express themselves and possibly get more information out of a character to coexist with the story and gameplay, as well as possibly even change the story as you go along.
What the fuck?
But Legend ZA doesn't even try to have real dialogue options. It's always 2 yeses and there's nothing to change about that whatsoever. What's the point of even doing this? Not only will the player realize pretty quickly that their choices have no meaning, but it also takes more work to just do it wrong than not even trying it at all. The only thing these pointless dialogue choices do is waste my time, which is really fucking funny because I said earlier in the video that Game Freak fixed a lot of the time-wasting aspects of Pokemon in this game, but not the dialogue. No, they had to keep that bullshit in the game. Speaking of bullshit, what is wrong with these cutscenes? Now, my nasally ass voice is talking over them right now, so I'm just gonna let it play out and see if you notice anything, wrong. Yeah, there's There's a bit of lack of voice acting here now, isn't there? Okay, now let me make something very crystal Pepsi clear. I really do not care one way or another if Pokemon games have voice acting in them. Now, before you dislike the video, unsub, and leave a really mean comment like Burbus gets no bitches, let me explain something real quick. If there's one thing that's been consistent with these games for almost 30 years is that they've remained text-based RPG games. And while change is always welcome in a series, including Pokemon, voice acting is one I personally feel like is on the bottom of the list, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't really change much for a text-based RPG. However, and this is a really big however, so big that I even bolded it in the script, you can't put cutscenes like this in the game and stick with your no voice acting rule, because in doing so, this makes your game look incredibly unfinished even when it's not. They could have easily just made it like Breath of the Wild, and I know I've mentioned Breath of the Wild so many times in this video, but please just stick with me. They could have just kept the normal interactions to text and made the actual cutscenes have voice acting, but they just didn't do that for whatever reason. Perhaps they wanted to, but just Daddy Nintendo wouldn't give them the budget for it, which of course is really infuriating because of that one fact people won't shut the fuck up about. And really, that's just what this video comes down to at the end of the day. It really doesn't matter what you have to do or say, people will still hate this game no matter what for the reasons that they personally justified to themselves. It doesn't matter if the game is fine or even good, the first impressions are what shape their entire view of the game in the first place. Now, first impressions are incredibly important, don't get me wrong, but whether it be the first thing they saw was the graphics, price, or even a tweet from a YouTuber they like saying that the game looks like ass and you're a monster for supporting Nintendo, can really turn you away from a game even if you haven't given it a chance yet. Critical reviews are very important, and hell, I've done those myself, but when you stray too far away from the game itself and start talking about unnecessary bullshit like, OMG dude, the city is totally just one rendered asset, my sources, I made it the fuck up. I just feel like that's incredibly unfair to the actual hard-working devs out there who sleep under their desks just to finish a video game. Of course, not all games fall under this umbrella. There are definitely games and game devs that deserve to be made fun of, shout out to AI-generated Tom Morello. But after all I've said in this video, I can confidently say that Pokemon Legends ZA, despite having some issues, is a pretty alright game, and I hope that I was able to give you a more honest look at it to help you form your own opinion. Honestly, after what everyone was saying on the internet, I was expecting this to be the worst game ever made, but in reality, it's just a pretty alright game with some problems that have been way overblown by people on the internet because the corporation who published the game right now is public enemy number one. But I genuinely feel like this is a good game, and I hope that you, the person watching this video, or the person that left a hate comment down below, can see that this game was not really all what it was built up to be by the internet, and perhaps give it a chance one day. Or hell, maybe I'm missing something entirely about this game that makes it worse than Big Rigs or that one game that will just not leave my head for some reason. But with all that being said, my name is Burbus, and thank you for watching.